like to open, and you have water. You're good.
Yeah.
I like to start. I don't like to tell people when we start.
Right. No, that's fine. That was like what Bill did. Same thing. We were yapping about something.
Well, he's. I love the guy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's a really good guy.
Yeah.
And just like over the last few weeks, I'm like, I said, Bill, because we text a lot, and you know what the crazy thing is like, he's probably right.
Right.
You know, he's probably right about a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Well, his arc into what he has been discussing now has been pretty interesting over the last couple of months. And hey, listen, like I said, you got to find your own way in what you believe and how you express it. Some people do it in a nuanced way that I think people can agree with. Some people don't. So, hey, more power to him.
Well, he's the great thing about him is that, like, which I don't see a lot of people doing anymore, is like, he's curious.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of people who have incuriosity. So like whatever like the headline says or whatever like the news says, they're like, that's the truth. And we know in our lives that there's many people around us that aren't exactly always honest.
Yep.
You know, like you can probably count on one hand how many people you're like, man, I really trust that person.
Well, I think that's part of the reason why these long form podcasts are becoming way more popular and influential, even like in the presidential election. You know, Joe Rogan invited Kamala Harris onto the podcast.
Yeah.
She didn't go. Donald Trump went. Theo Vaughn invited Kamala Harris onto his podcast.
They all did.
Donald Trump went. So did JD Vance. She didn't.
What do you think that is? Is that like a fear? Like, cause it's like if you really believe what you believe, right? And look, no one's perfect. You know, Lord knows I am not at all. And there's a lot of crazy shit that I say. And probably a lot of it is not the full truth. It's probably like in the direction,
right?
You know, like the wind chimes are blowing.
Yeah, in the ballpark.
Yeah, it might, but I get some things wrong. And it's like, you know, I hear a lot of conservative people go, you know, we've invited all these people and they won't come talk to us. Yeah.
I think on the Democratic side, it's about control. So, and
like
I
narrative?
Think, I think it's about controlling the narrative, only being able to ask certain questions. Like, for example, same thing happened with, I think it was one of the dock workers union or labor union for the whole country.
It's the AFL-CIO, I think it was. Yeah.
That President Trump came, so did Kamala, and they told these guys, you can only ask Kamala these 5 or 6 questions. And they said, oh, all right, I guess that's what we'll do. That's not what we want to do, but we'll do it. And they started asking the questions. And after, I think, the second or third question, she said, okay, this interview's over. She left. President Trump came, spoke for 2 hours with those guys. No script, no anything.
Yeah.
And it was the first time in the history of the union, I think, that they endorsed them.
Well, that seems like, and this is like what I'm having like this big, like, and it's not like a necessarily political thing. There's a lot of people who are like that, where they don't want to, it seems like they don't want to have discourse, right? Polite discourse, right? Whether or not, like, abortion's like a big one. And it's like, I just did a podcast with my buddy John Phillips, and he's like, you know, we don't see the world the same way on that, right? But we're not like, fuck you. You know what I mean? Like, we're having an honest conversation about it. And it seems like that because it's gone from political to like social groups.
Right.
Where it's like, well, we can't have that person here because, you know, they'll ask questions or they'll make people feel uncomfortable. Right. Or, you know, one time they were like, I really don't think we should cut up kids. And you know what I mean? It's like, we can't invite that person. So is that like in your estimation, is that like what is that? Like, what is it that it's like, we can't talk about things that we might disagree with, because conversation allows us to understand the nuance of another person's perspective. Mm-hmm. Why is there like this aversion to it?
I think, you know, the first thing that comes to mind for me is how back in like the 50s and 60s, even my grandparents said it all the time, that
religion and politics,
we won't talk about it at the dinner table. Yeah. You know, we won't talk about it with our friends. Even my grandmother, I know she was a registered Republican. She would never, ever say who she voted for when she went into the voting booth. She would say, that's my vote. That's private. And I thought, well, I kind of respect that, actually.
Did you hear Gene Simmons in the last week?
He said? I'm a huge Kiss fan. So when I saw those videos of him testifying, was in front of Congress about the whatever the music act is that's being discussed now with the royalties. He's great. I mean, he really is, and he's always had, I think, a lot of those opinions.
He said on his Kennedy Center induction the other day, because my wife's one of her best friends is a huge Kiss fan, and he's like, because they in Variety of Hollywood, where I used to live, we're asking him about his political opinions, and he said something like, "It's none of your fucking business." Like we used to walk into a voting booth, close the curtain, and no one knew who we voted for. When did that change?
Well, I can't speak for myself because I've always been outspoken politically.
Yeah.
And that's just been like my MO from day one. But I think for most, ordinary people, I want to say right around the time the 24-hour news cycle came around, that's when people started to become a little bit more open about what their political views were. Because, back before that, you just had the news at 5 o'clock, the news at 11, whatever. And when you came to having to fill 24 hours of news, then you have commentators, then you have people inserting their opinions. So you might start talking about that around the water cooler, like, oh, what did Bill O'Reilly say on Fox News? What did Rush Limbaugh say yesterday? So I think that's when things really started to take a turn.
I have this philosophy that it was 9/11. I have this philosophy that it was always like commercial breaks. Well, I have two theories on it. It was 9/11 and the loss of daytime soap operas.
Okay.
9/11 because for days, and this was the thing that was like really like, there was always that philosophy, like if it bleeds, it leads, right?
Yeah, of course.
So like the most terrible thing will be like the top news story, and then you make your way to the water skiing squirrel. And when 9/11 happened, it was so like culturally traumatizing for everyone that they had no place to turn because there was no answers.
Right.
And they didn't know what to do.
And it was in your face 24/7 for days and days on end.
Like to watch that live, I remember where I was. I remember what I felt. I remember what I did the night before. I remember the night of 9/11. But then for like years after that, you had like the red, orange, green.
Yep.
That was based on nothing.
Right.
Based on absolutely nothing. And then we found a way, and this is not like me blaming women or anything like that. It was just like, there was like, when I was growing up, like my grandmother, my mom to some extent, my mom never watched soap operas, but they would talk about the characters.
Right. What happened on All My Children last night?
And it was every day was this new addition to this story of these fictional lives. And, they started to get rid of that. And my theory is that when it started to happen, everybody went over to CNN, MSNBC, Fox.
Sure.
Because we've now turned these politicians into literal characters that you're watching and you're updating yourself on. And it's no different than like a daytime soap opera. And then you start to believe the narrative, not even the narrative, but the perception.
And they behave like that too.
Yes.
They reinforce it because they know that that's the only way they'll get on the news, by reinforcing whatever that caricature is of them.
Yes.
And they have no shame in it, which, hey, listen, if that's how you need to get your message across in today's day and age, I don't know that I fault you for it, but it doesn't make it right.
When I COVID really blew my brain, and it was the beginning of October of 2020, I switched from Democrat to Republican.
Okay.
And it was like 2 days before the election, something like that, Eric Trump was in town.
Yep.
And he was speaking up at, I believe it was up in Dixon City. And I got a call to take photographs in the private VIP behind, right? And I was waiting the whole time because I was a hardcore Democrat. I was waiting the whole time for like Uday or Hussein, like just this evil son of this evil dictator. And I was like, you know what? Here's my opportunity to see like this guy in like with no cameras, with nothing, just to be who he is, and I could spot the warts if I'm going to see them. He was so kind, genuine, nice. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
And I'm looking around at my buddy, and I'm like, yo, this is not the guy I expected. Like, what is going on here? My brain's getting broken. And then you go out to the ballroom where everybody is, and he's like, in the radical left, and I'm like, oh, there it is. There's like the TV show, it's on. But I understood, like, you want to energize people to vote. But it was very bizarre to me to be like, and I'm like, oh wait, I lived in Hollywood. I'm in media. Of course that's what it is.
Yeah. That's a little bit harder to do, I think, on the local level where I am.
Totally.
Because I don't want to say something bad about somebody that's my friend. You know, I have people that are friends on both sides of the aisle.
Sure.
And people that I work with on both sides of the aisle. So I don't want to say, oh, this person's a crazy, wacky liberal that believes that we should be cutting the heads off of babies or things like that.
Yeah.
So I typically try not to do that. But when you're that far removed from maybe the individual, like Eric Trump versus like an AOC or somebody like that.
Sure.
You know, he could say whatever he wants about her because he doesn't even run in the same circle as she does.
No.
But, you know, I think that one of the other things that's interesting about Donald Trump kind of coming onto the scene politically is he did change the landscape as far as how politicians behave. Because a lot of times, you know, and I think that this is part what we said before, the Democratic Party, how they're very controlling about what they say. President Trump doesn't use a teleprompter. He doesn't write a speech. He just speaks from the heart. And more people are trying to emulate that. And I've noticed that even with our local congressmen and other politicians where they try, and I do it too, to be honest with you. I try not to. That's why I'm here today. I want to speak, you know, plainly. I don't want to try to sugarcoat anything. I know, right? I'll never be elected again.
No, I think you're a good dude. I you know, that's what seems to be the problem is we forgot, like, you know, I don't know if Trump was the guy who allowed everybody to behave the way that they behave, because like you got to realize like the founding of this country was much more tumultuous and much more like aggressively indignant against, you know, you read some of the stuff like John Adams and Thomas Jefferson and stuff, and it's like, man, they were calling each other real bad names.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
I just think Trump, I think we got lulled. I think for a few generations we got lulled into like this. I'm going to keep going back to perception because, you know, a lot of the criticism of Trump is like, you know, he just doesn't behave like a president should behave. And it's like, well, I know there's presidents that have shot people in duels. There's presidents that have slapped people in the, like, I think the way that we're supposed to be as a country is more like the Wild West instead of like this dignified, you know, whatever it is. Cause what is the dignity? There is none. Like when you're bombing kids in foreign countries, where is the dignity? Yeah.
I think, back in the time of our country's founding, while they may have behaved that way, calling each other names, like I'll tell you, my favorite musical is Hamilton. Love that.
I couldn't get into it.
I think it's great. I
couldn't
really
get
do.
into it.
I'm not like a person that goes to New York and will watch them, see them, but like I'll watch like a video or whatever of them.
Sure.
And just in fact, it was during the pandemic. My girlfriend and I, we sat down, we
Disney
watched
Plus.
it. It was on Disney Plus. They put it on there, and we watched it. And there was one girl that I went to college with, and it was the year that I graduated in 2015, the year that Hamilton came out. And she was obsessed with this musical. And I thought, oh, Alexander Hamilton, who cares?
Yeah.
And then I watched it and I thought, wow, this is actually a really interesting way to tell the story of the history of our country, at least its founding.
Yeah.
So while they may have been, you know, attacking each other and duels and things like that, they did have a lot of profound ideas that are still in existence today. So I think that's where some of the idea of trying to be dignified is. Like, I'll bring up, so I listened to your podcast when you had one of my buddies, TJ Fitzgerald, on the podcast, and he said something. He actually mentioned me specifically.
I don't remember. Did he?
Yeah, he did.
Okay.
He said my name specifically, and he mentioned how I got mad at him because I'm the chair of county council, and I got mad at him because while he was speaking at a meeting, he cursed. He said like shit or something like that.
Yeah.
And listen, I'm a firefighter. Every other word out of my mouth is the F word when I'm at work, but when I'm in that building,
you're also Italian.
Also true. Yeah. Some Italian curse words. But when I'm in that building, when I'm running that meeting, there's a certain reverence for what's going on, for the process. Sure. And I feel like when you denigrate it by behaving like that, you're sort of doing a disservice to what you're trying to accomplish.
I think, and just to play devil's advocate,
sure.
I think that like most citizens don't get elected to anything, a vast majority. And, you know, it's just like football. You criticize the team, but once you're on the field, it's a totally different story.
Yep.
And like, here's like the catch-22 with me where I agree with both sides is like, yes, I think it should be dignified. I think there should be, you know, a polite discourse, But I also believe that you should be able to say whatever you want to say in a situation like that. And that's like where it becomes like there's an argument to be made that the people who go speak feel like the institution isn't dignified because of the perceived suffering that they may be. No, look, nobody's going to speak. Most people don't go to speak to council because they're praising everybody.
Very true.
They're going there to complain about something, right? So they feel that they've been wronged or an injustice has been served or whatever. And they're going most of the time because they have no other outlet and no one will listen to them.
Sure.
So people like TJ, I respect very much. There are a few things that him and I don't see eye to eye on, but we still maintain a friendship. And I think that that's the valuable thing because, look, there's the reason I believe that the reason why. Let's talk about something like Nick Fuentes.
Okay.
Right. Very polarizing.
Sure.
But the truth of the matter is that like I was listening to Glenn Greenwald last night talk about him, and it was on Piers Morgan, and I saw Piers even go like, "Oh shit, you're right." About what he was saying and what Piers and what Glenn Greenwald says. He goes, number one, I have no issue with anybody talking to anybody because we have interviewed people who have bombed innocent children in Vietnam, World War II, Iraq, and we treat them all with dignity and respect, and we don't castigate them the way that you guys do this kid. But also it's a generational thing because that kid grew up during the financial crisis, being told that you can't say these words, you can't do these things, it's impolite or it's rude or it's anti-Semitic or it's racist or whatever. And the thing that like I try telling Republicans now, because like Nick Fuentes is, I'm like, people aren't tuning into him the way they used to tune into Howard Stern, being like, oh, I want to see what he says next.
Sure.
They're tuning in because they agree with the grievances. And that's the future. And if you're not going to communicate with the next generation and tell them that they're all wrong, you're proving their gripes correct. And that's a big concern, about whatever it is moving forward if we want to keep this country together. So I think like to your point about like TJ is that like I think his heart's in the right place. I just think that he looks at, and I might be totally making this up and this is not what he believes, but I think he thinks that the machine is broke and like the phoenix, it needs to burn and then rise again from the ashes. And I don't think he cares. Look, he's a Republican, used to be a D, just like me. I believe in the tenets of the NEPA Republicans, which is like free speech.
So do I.
Second Amendment.
First Amendment, Second Amendment.
And then
parental rights.
Parental rights. Functioning government. And closed borders.
Closed borders. I think
there's only 5.
Election integrity.
Election integrity.
That's the other one.
Those are things that like
I agree with
Democrat,
every single
Republican.
One of them. Well, and I've said this to him before because I'll tell you, not to belabor the point about him specifically, but
no, let's just make TJ, this is all about you.
Well, I have said to him many times, you have these 5 absolutes, and I consider myself somebody who tries really hard to abide by those 5 absolutes, not because they're your absolutes, but because they're 5 things I agree with. And I can't really think of a time where I specifically have, tried to stifle anybody or tried to, I'm certainly pro Second Amendment. I'm a member of the NRA, have guns, like fine with that. Election integrity. I believe in election integrity just like everybody else. And I'm, worried about where we go with mail-in ballots and things like that. So, we have to have certain protections, but there's only so much that you can do from a local level. And I think that that's where the disconnect starts to happen, is
where people think that there's that you've at the local level, there's more power bestowed than there really is.
Yeah. I mean, if I'm, if I want to make a stink about something and be loud and obnoxious, I can do that. But is that going to actually do anything? Is it going to change anything? No. What will change something is flipping one of our state house seats from Democrat to Republican, because there's only a 1-seat majority of Democrats in the state house right now. Flipping that seat from Democrat to Republican will then allow us to start trying to pass legislation or fix legislation with our election laws, because they're totally broken in the state. Electing a new governor.
You feel that the election laws are...
Yeah. Oh, totally.
In what way?
So, for example, I think you can request a mail-in ballot up to 7 or 8 days before the election.
Mhm.
With the way the postal service is, you're not going to get that mail-in ballot, no matter how you request it, where you do.
I do political campaigns.
Yeah.
And the mail piece went out to the post office in time.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't come out until 4 days until after the election.
We had similar situation happen twice with our mail system this past election cycle. One of these mail pieces was
Why do you
supposed
guys
to
seem
hit.
to always have problems down in Luzerne County?
Well, it's the mail system, not the election system. But the election system, I think that things are getting better there. But for several years, it was a lot of high turnover in our county government, both in the top leadership positions and all the way down to the elections director. We've had like 5 elections directors since I've been on county council.
Since 2022?
Since 2022, we've had, I think, 4 or 5 elections directors.
But isn't there like a practices and procedures like behind the scenes on like, here's how we run an election?
So to some extent,
and I'm only asking these questions because I'm ignorant.
Yeah, to some extent, yes, there is. Things that come down from the state, but a lot of the election, is run locally. So,
even the national ones, it's local people running them. Yeah.
So like if there's a checklist that one elections director has that says, okay, we have to have this ballot proofed by October 1st. We have to have this machine serviced by September 30th. We have to have this other thing done by, August. And when that elections director leaves, typically all of that information just gets lost with them. So we now have
insane.
That has happened in the past. Now, more recently, with our more recent elections director that we have currently, they have been putting into place practices that will transcend any administration, any department head, division head. So they'll always have that information with them. So
as an ignorant person, why wasn't that in place 40 years ago?
Good question. I have no idea.
Okay, good.
Couldn't tell you.
At least you don't know either.
Couldn't tell you.
Well, I mean, like I've talked to people, like you always hear the criticisms about the elections in Luzerne County, and you're like, what do you mean there's no ballots at the polling places?
Totally fair criticisms. I think like
but those
I said,
seem like regardless of practices and procedures that like.
Well,
does the precinct have paper?
Well, it's just like part of a checklist, part of a system that, okay, am I going to check every single machine myself? Is somebody else going to do it? Who's responsible for it? And what amount of paper is the right amount of paper? Is emergency ballots? Is it one ballot for every potential voter? So if there's 1,000 potential voters at a precinct, do you have 1,000 emergency ballots? I mean, I think the answer would be yes, but maybe they would say no, it's only 10% because we only typically get 2% of people that will have an emergency that will require an emergency ballot.
So, but it's just it's like okay, as an ignoramus, what is the org chart between elected officials, either like I'm assuming it's because it's a countywide voting system. Mm-hmm. What is the org chart on the responsibility? Like who oversees the election department?
So the election department is overseen by the elections director, who is the department head.
And that's not an elected position. That's an appointed position.
That's a hired position, not appointed
by
council or anything like that. Now, I'll tell you, like our county manager does come to us and says, "Hey, I'm hiring this person as the elections director," and that's.
What do they say? Is there a vetting process, or is it?
There's a hiring process, and there's qualifications that you should have.
I'm hiring Pete from my neighbor from down the street.
But so they have those processes in place. And then above the elections director is the division head, who'd be the administrative services division head. They would oversee other aspects. And then above them is the county manager, who oversees the day-to-day operations of the entire county. And then above that person is county council. But council, because of our home rule charter, our home rule system, we're not allowed to make the jump from county manager to elections director. And
so in other words, it's like the board of directors is not allowed to go to the night manager.
We can't go and try to tell somebody how to do the day-to-day operations.
Is that law?
Yep. That's what our county charter says. That all stems from the corruption scandals from 2008, and obviously that type of stuff was going on for decades and decades prior. But because of that, it's
just so funny, John.
I know.
It's like you get into a place and you're like, oh, this has been going on for a while. And
well, it was. And then once we reformed and have the home rule charter, we haven't had any of that since then. I mean, we have all these rigid, like rigid guide rails in place.
So like, not to belabor the point about the election stuff, because I know that like there's a lot of people who like on both sides don't trust the elections. Regardless on whether or not there's some sort of election supervisor or whatever in that org chart, like below and above are the people who should be like, hey, we don't have the person that's supposed to do this right now, but make sure all your I's are dotted and your T's are crossed. And because like for the amount of mistakes that have happened over the last few years, you'd figure that like every election day we're like, did we forget anything? Like, did we do everything that we're supposed to be doing? Like, do we send 1,000 ballots there, 1,000 ballots there? Is there enough ink in the whatevers? Is there enough? You know what I mean? Like, I just don't like, because if it was a corporation, somebody'd be like, everybody's fired.
Right. I'll give you a good example. So for like every year, my girlfriend and I go on vacation with my family, and it's like a week-long vacation. We go down to Myrtle Beach, and she always has a packing list, like a checklist of everything that she should be packing. Me, I pack the night before, boom, everything. If
you
I don't,
and me the same.
And guess what? Yeah. I always forget something. She always yells at me. I always say, oh, you're right, honey. So that's kind of the difference between like one elections director and another one. I'm sorry, what was your question again? Your initial question?
How does it like, why is there, if you don't have an elections director, why is it not that like the checks and balances are there to basically like cover your ass as a county?
Yeah.
To be like, we can't afford this criticism, so let's get it right. I mean, like up here we had, I don't know if this is, one of it's not breaking news. The other one might be. We had, in Lackawanna County last election, there were more Republicans on the ballot for judge of elections than ever before. So there's never been as many Republicans on the ballot as in the last election.
That's great,
as far as
by
I know.
the way. That's great.
Yeah. And then you had in precincts, judge of elections either there or wanting to be there, writing their own names on the ballots.
Right. Okay.
I don't know if you heard about this.
Yes.
Okay. So Rob O'Donnell's been kind of a dog on a bone on this, and I don't know if he's necessarily incorrect on it. So we all think of it as an isolated incident. I have a family member who saw the Rob O'Donnell dog on a bone thing and called me and was like, you know, I was in Clark Summit in South Abington, and the judge of elections did that there. And I'm like, did you tell anybody? Did anybody know? And he's like, nope. And I'm like, okay, so like more than once is a pattern. And how many more did it happen and nobody says anything? Like my biggest concern is like, as far as like elections go, right? And I think I'm speaking for I'm not speaking for people. These seems like to be the concerns that a lot of people have. So in our primary, we had a city council candidate who forged his petition papers.
Sure.
Now you can argue through malice or ignorance. Either way, it's not good. And one of the questions that I kept asking either candidates in the races or current elected officials, I'm like, who checks the petitions to see if they're legit? And they're like, well, the candidates do. And it's like,
yeah.
So how many, which I'm just asking, like I get curious about this and I go, well, how many people have we elected that we probably shouldn't have elected who got their petitions in a fraudulent way?
So there was, I'll tell you, 2 years ago, there was an allegation that one of our county council candidates who was successful did that, where they forged multiple signatures. And the person that brought it up was one of the council candidates that wasn't successful, that ended up losing in the general election.
Right.
But there is a prescribed time limit when you're allowed to, like a statute of limitations, when you're allowed to bring all of that up. So it is, unfortunately, because of state law, it is incumbent upon the candidates or a citizen to go there and inspect the election petitions for each candidate. Now, I'm not saying whether that candidate did or did not do it. I didn't see the petitions.
Yeah, you're not judge, jury, executioner. It's an accusation.
The election happened. It was past the time. The person was asking me if I would, help with this, and I said, "There's nothing really you could do. You're past the statute. The window's closed."
Yeah.
So unfortunately, it is incumbent upon either another candidate or just a citizen to go do that. That's just one of those things with state law where that's what the judge and jury is. Now, the Elections Bureau, I think in every county, is supposed to go and I mean, they do it very quickly. At least they have every time that I've run for
like
any
a spot
office.
check.
It's a spot check where it's just like, okay, do you have this? Oh, you're missing a date here. Cross that one off. Oh, this date's outside of the time. They're supposed to do all of that. Now, how many petitions do they handle? How many actual signatures do they have to look at? That's the type of stuff that they're looking for. They're not necessarily looking for, oh, this person looks like they have the same handwriting as this person, or this person looks like they do whatever the same. I don't think that happens as much as it's not incumbent upon the Elections Bureau to do that. It's incumbent upon the candidates to do that.
So I bring it up because it's curious to me that we have all these checks and balances for the elections, but we don't have all the checks and balances for the petitions.
Right. It's curious, like you said. It definitely is. It's something that should be reformed.
I wonder if there's a way. Well, I don't wonder. I know that there is a way where you can actually scan and cross-reference using AI.
Okay.
To look at all those petitions to see, just as long as they're like, you want to know that they're legitimate. Does such and such live at this address? I don't agree with the petition stuff where, like, if your name on your driver's license, Steven, and you sign Steve, it should be crossed off.
Well, again, that's something that they would only find out if somebody inspected the petition.
Yeah.
So, this is something that I always encourage.
Hundreds of thousands of people, John.
Yeah. That's why I always encourage members of the public. If you want to check out my petition, go ahead, check it out. If you want to go and check out one of the Democrat petitions, go ahead. Go check it out.
I would be in favor. I don't know if this will ever happen, but I would be in favor of, like, there's no such thing as bipartisan unless you you totally hate the government. But like some bipartisan thing that's like, turn your petitions in. We get copies. We vet them within the window. Whether through AI or whatever, and you have, here's your mode on how you do it. Here's your cross references on what you use, blah, blah, blah. Turn that in and you say, hey, we think that these 12 or this, whoever the witness is, we don't think that they're legitimate. Here's our reasons why. It's up to you to pursue it. I don't know if that's such a bad move. Obviously, I would do it. I would say it at no cost to the taxpayers. It's just a bunch of volunteers who are trying to be honest and keep everybody honest. I just don't know. It was just one of the things that I realized over like the last 6-7 months where I was like, wait, nobody.
Well, yeah, it's happening here. So you kind of have said, okay, this actually could be a problem, and you might not know that it's potentially a problem. And I don't even know how many people even know that allegation surfaced in Luzerne County. I don't remember if it was even reported in the paper. It might have been, halfway down a story or something. And again, not saying that person did it or didn't do it, because there's really no point in figuring it out. But, this is where people that want to participate in the process and they want to get involved, it's a great place to start. Right. Go and check out those petitions. I don't think anybody did that for my election cycle this past year. I wish they did. Again, not suggesting that anybody did or did, but I wish that they did, because I'd have a little more peace of mind knowing that everybody, was above board.
There's a lot of people I think who want to do it, but the crazy thing is like if you go ask for the petitions, like by the time you leave the office, everyone knows that you went down and asked for the petitions. You know what I mean? So it's that's
probably especially if you're a fellow elected official.
Well, yeah, there's like a fear. There's a fear of like, that's why I was like, we should do something independent, which means it has nothing to do with candidates or anybody trying to screw anybody or whatever. It just is what it is. And it keeps the process honest.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's just me bringing this up and no one's ever thought of this, or I can't believe I'm the only person that's ever thought of this.
I think it's a good idea. I agree with you 100%.
Why did you get into politics? Are you a psycho?
A little bit. No. My family has had a lot of involvement in politics for a long time. We're just really service to the community. And when I was young, How
old are you?
32.
Oh, you're a pup.
Yeah. So, and
good
I've
for
actually
good for you jumping into the lion's den.
And funny enough, I've been active in politics for like probably almost 20 years, meaning I started doing this when I was about 12. I mean, I went out and started knocking on doors for candidates and things like that before I could even drive a car.
I've been paying attention to politics since Michael Dukakis got in a tank. Yep. I've always been paying attention.
That's great. Great picture.
So what was it? What was the thing? It was like there's a lot of people. There's a lot of reasons why people have like these connections with politics, right? And like you said before, religion or politics don't talk about them. Like you jumped into the belly of the beast at a young age. I think I did to some degree too. Yep. What's the motivation for that? Is that like
yeah, I mean, like I said, my family has a history of community service, because politics isn't my full-time job. In my full-time job, I'm a firefighter.
Yeah.
And my family has a history in that too. So, everything that I've done has really just been trying to serve the community. My uncle, who's the mayor of Pittston, Mike Lombardo,
that's your uncle?
Yep.
He's crushing Pittston, man.
Oh, it's great. It's such a great town.
Have you been to the refinery yet?
I have been.
How many times?
Several times. It's hard to get a reservation there.
I was very fortunate. I've gone twice. And it was the first time my cousin's like, hey, you want to go Wednesday? And I'm like, can we go Wednesday? He's like, right. Yes, we can go Wednesday.
There you go.
And he made a phone call and we got in Wednesday and it was delicious.
Yep.
It was amazing.
The food is good. It's definitely like some old world Italian style cooking, but also more refined, like things you'd see at like Michelin star restaurants too.
Yeah.
The presentation is great.
I love that most of it is not like bought at fucking Walmart.
Yep.
It's like, I think do they make their own pasta?
They make everything there, homemade. Yeah.
All right. So it's your uncle down there?
My uncle Mike is
he's
the mayor.
It. Yeah,
is the mayor. And he's always attracting new businesses.
And he's a D, right?
He's a registered Democrat.
He's doing a good job.
And he's not afraid to tell people that he doesn't really identify necessarily with the Democratic Party on a lot of issues.
Uh-huh.
So I think that's what makes him really well respected amongst everybody. And really the results speak for themselves when it comes to him. He's, over the last 30 years just been toiling away at trying to make the city of Pittston a better place to live and work and raise a family. And by and large that, over the last probably decade has really flourished. And all of the things that are going on now in Pittston, and he'll tell you this himself, are all ideas he's had in his head since like 1995, 1997, when he first got involved. They're all things that are just, all right, build this block up, build this building up, repave the sidewalks, get some new lighting downtown. And then everything one day, it just was like, I'll never forget. There was one day I'm just like walking down the street, maybe like 2013 or 14. And I just go, I think I have a picture of it actually. And I just go, wow, this is great. And I posted it on Facebook and one of my cousins wrote, it was hysterical. He goes, those damn Lombardos. Because there's, a small contingent of people that didn't like my uncle for whatever reason. And
you can't please all the people all the time,
of course.
man.
And that's fine. That's understandable. But again, the results speak for themselves. So
how did you go from like firefighting to belly of the beast?
Well, so politics, I was always actively involved in politics before I got involved in emergency services. But I was actually, let's see. I started working as an EMT in 2012. And
that's so brutal.
Yeah.
Why get into that?
Well, it was a way to make extra money when I was in college. And back in 2012, it wasn't like it is now. Like if you watch, like what's that?
And stuff?
Yeah. We had a little bit of that at the time, but not as much as it was over the last probably 5 or 6 years. Towards the end of my full-time career working in the ambulance, and I stopped working there and switched careers to become a firefighter in 2020 during COVID. I got hired at the end of 2020. So it was a good transition. I was very happy. Not to say I didn't enjoy my time working, but I needed a break. I needed a change because I was totally burnt out, especially from that last year, having to see the things that we had to see, watch the issues with the
during
nursing
the COVID
homes.
year.
It was horrendous. It was terrible.
Are you allowed to speak about?
Yeah. I talked about. So
I know what I heard and saw, but I want to see if it matches up because I don't think what I heard and saw was what I was told I heard and saw.
Yeah. So I definitely have like kind of a dual perspective on this as somebody that's always been active in politics and, watching, people try to succeed in small business and things like that. I really had a problem with the government being shut down and not the government, but the country being shut down for that extended period of time.
You mean the unconstitutional shutting
the
down
of the 2 weeks to flatten the curve, which turned into 2 months to flatten the curve, which turned into 2 years to flatten. But
all of us who are talking about it are crazy, right?
Well, so here's where I sort of diverge a little bit from that.
Yeah.
Is that when it first started coming on the scene in January, February, March of 2020, when the country got shut down, I'll never forget. Pittston was actually the last town that had a St. Patty's Day parade that year. They were the last ones. Scranton canceled theirs.
Not true.
Go ahead.
So Scranton did cancel theirs, but they had the party.
They still had the party.
And I went to the party.
That's right.
Yeah.
Where was the party?
It was everywhere. It was all over Scranton.
Right.
So like they stopped the parade. They postponed the parade.
Right.
But all the bars stayed open.
Yep. That is accurate.
And I remember, and I was terrified of COVID at the beginning. And I went to the one, I was at the, right across from Radisson. I forget the name of it. whatever it was. It was like, it used to be like the
Kildare's.
Kildare's.
Right.
And for some reason I'm like, oh, we have like, it was a joke, but then I was standing on top and I don't drink, and I went to meet a buddy there, and I remember thinking to myself, like, why did I do this?
Mm-hmm.
Why am I here?
Right.
Like, why would I put myself at risk, or my wife at risk, or my family at risk? And, needless to say, like 3 weeks later, I was like,
yeah,
oh, I had every right to be there, and this is all bullshit, and blah, blah, blah. So, all right, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No. So where I diverged a little bit
last St. Patrick's Day parade.
Yeah, the last official, like the party happened.
Yeah.
I always say that it's a joke, but as we moved into that whole time of the 2 weeks to flatten the curve, I still was working. So I'm there literally on the front line, seeing the people as we're bringing them into the hospital. Hospitals totally, I mean, they did the best job that they could. They really did. But there were a lot of people that were coming in that had COVID, that had the cases. But I'll tell you, it was mostly people that had comorbidities, people that were extremely overweight, people that had COPD, people that had asthma, people that had heart problems, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I think that the lack of concern for our general health in America is kind of what made COVID what it was. So I don't really have this thought in my mind where it was like a conspiracy. It didn't really exist. There's some people that believe that, but because I saw it, it was very real. But
what it was, but it was the first time in our lives where doctors wouldn't treat patients.
Yes, that is accurate.
So I this is like what would you call this? So I ran like this quiz on people.
Mm-hmm.
How many people a year die from the flu? Do you know this? Annually on average.
I want to say it's like 100-some thousand.
It's 40-some thousand to 70-some thousand.
Okay.
Right? How many people a year are diagnosed with the flu? Like they actually run a test and diagnose people in the United States.
Not sure.
Over 50 million.
Okay.
Right? So there's 50 million people per year who get the flu, between 40-some thousand and 70-some thousand on average, who die. Those are people who die that are treated.
Mm-hmm.
What happens when you stop treating the people who test positive for a respiratory illness such as the flu? Like, you can't go to see your doctor. The hospitals aren't admitting you. They're telling you to stay home till you turn blue.
Mm-hmm.
You have the fear and the anxiety of that, which causes other problems in the body. And then all of a sudden, like, you start to realize, like, that's pretty damaging to do that. And I'm not saying that you had any part of that, because your sole responsibility is to get people to help.
Right, get people to the hospital.
Right. I mean, did you ever question that? Because that year there was 0 flu deaths. Isn't that strange? Like, just if we didn't know anything about COVID and we just knew those numbers, wouldn't you say that that's a signal of something weird?
So I'll tell you the thing that I did have an issue with, and it had nothing to do with what the ERs were doing, what the hospitals were doing. I think that because we were in such an unprepared state, that it was just kind of like, I don't want to say every man for himself, but there was a lot of just trying to do things on the fly. And I think that the federal government, like Operation Warp Speed, making sure all those the ventilators got built and things like that, all that stuff, that was our federal government actually doing its job, doing a fantastic job at it. And it doesn't get enough credit, by the way, for that. President Trump does not get enough credit for what happened during Operation Warp Speed and all of that. But one thing that I did have an issue with, and I mentioned it when I was on Bill Corcoran's podcast, was the way that residents of nursing homes were treated. And again, not saying that the nursing homes themselves were the issue, but these policies handed down by state and federal lawmakers and these agencies saying that, you had to keep these people in this congregate housing, which was causing them to constantly be infected with COVID. So more people in
without
nursing
negative
homes were
pressure
dying.
rooms.
Right. And more people were dying. And again, they were doing the best they could down on the ground. But and then you have like the Secretary of Health, Dr. Levine.
Richard?
Dr. Levine's
John. Look, here's the thing about Richard Levine, and this is my opinion.
Sure.
Right? When your degree is in child mental health, focusing on eating disorders,
right,
you're not in the lane.
Mm-hmm.
Back away. Have somebody else who understands infectious diseases, viral spreads, outbreaks, pandemics, blah, blah, blah. Because you need to know, like, I'm pretty good at a lot of stuff, but I definitely step back when I'm not good at that stuff because
I
it'll
agree.
cause harm.
Mhm.
And to praise that person is insane to me.
Mhm.
And I think that he led to deaths.
So I think that the biggest thing.
I'm just not going to be uncompromising on my view of that.
No, I understand.
Yeah.
No, one thing I'll say is I can't stand hypocrisy. So when
100%.
you are a person that is saying you need to keep your family member in the nursing homes and they have to suffer with COVID, possibly die, but I get to take my family member out of the nursing home, that's hypocrisy. And that's
the
what
day
Dr.
before.
Levine did.
The day before, took his mother out of the nursing home, put her up at like a 5-star hotel.
Mhm.
Whatever happened to Richard Levine's mom? Seemed like she was fine.
Probably survived.
The problem I had with COVID is I started putting all the stuff together, and I'm
Mhm.
like, why are they giving them palliative care? Why are they not treating them? Like no one told, I tested positive. I know a lot more shit than people think I know. I know a lot more about health and how the human body works now because I was non-essential. And I wanted to look really deep into it to understand.
Right.
And I started looking at math.
Mhm.
I started looking at statistics. I started looking at like, okay, we're like in my age group, what's the susceptibility? How many comorbidities? Blah, 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 blah. And then you start to see the signal of like, it's only affecting very few people.
Right.
And when you go, how is it affecting these very few people? It's because they're not getting care. Like do no harm. It's the Hippocratic Oath.
Yes.
Every doctor who did not see a patient, I think is a criminal.
Mhm.
Every one of them. And there's some of them that I know and love. But to say, I'm afraid of this thing, that if I got sunlight and vitamin D, I'd be okay, and you can't come in because you're afraid. I knew more people that died being afraid of COVID than COVID.
Right. Well, I think that's another thing that was a little silly was you can't go outside and go work out on the track where no one else is around. I mean, I'll tell you, that's what I did throughout all of COVID. I think I lost about 20 pounds. All I did was
Probably felt great.
I was outside. I was running. I was having a good time. Nobody else was around, and that's it. So, why you shouldn't have been allowed to go outside and exercise,
or go to a place where people talk about stuff like bars and hair salons.
Well, yeah, exactly.
So that's why that's why it feels like I have a conspiratorial mind, because I'm like, those are the things that were
just
poo-pooed on.
Yeah, and just to be clear, like my opinion is not. I have. I think that
I'm not trying to set you up.
No,
or,
I know. No, it's okay. But I just want to say that, I think that many and most medical professionals did everything that they could in order to try to help their patients.
I think they were scared.
Yeah.
And I think,
again,
and I also think the information they were getting was not accurate.
Unprecedented situations. And I think I'll tell you, like, Dr. Fauci, I don't have a lot of use for him. I think that his, his operation, his way of addressing COVID, it's like he says one thing, says another thing, 3 months later, says another thing, 3 months later.
Do you know who Carrie Mullis is? Do you ever hear that name?
No.
You ever hear the PCR test?
I believe so.
That's how they
Go
tested
ahead.
everybody for COVID.
Yeah.
It's called the polymerase chain reaction.
Okay.
Right? Carrie Mullis is the guy who invented that. He won a Nobel Prize for it. If you're interested, I will send you an interview with Carrie Mullis in 1996.
Okay.
Sitting at his kitchen table. And with the hindsight of today, it is a fascinating conversation about public health, how PCR works, and Dr. Fauci.
Okay.
It's just fascinating to see. Now, people that watch this that know about what I'm talking about, they'll be like, yeah, that guy's a motherfucker. But there's going through today and then hopping in the time machine and going back to look at what he had to say back then is pretty fascinating about the whole situation of 2020, 2021.
Right.
So like, thank you so much for trying to help people. I just think that the information was either incorrect or purposely not given. And that's my view based on a lot of things. And I don't expect everybody to have that view.
I definitely agree that there was a huge deviation of how we treated that particular illness versus every other illness that is like it.
I had my sister, she lives up in Abington. And most of the reason why I got involved in all of this is because of this moment.
Mm-hmm.
My sister knows more about vaccines, viruses, health because of trying to have a baby, right? So she had a very tough pregnancy to get pregnant, and then what she did for the next 9 months was read every package insert on every vaccine, know what the ingredients are, know where they come from, how they're made, and then obviously that leads down other rabbit holes. But she was like, never once has a mask been helpful in a respiratory illness, and she was really an advocate to not mask the kids up at Abington Heights High School or Abington Heights School District. So she asked me to help her write her comments, and I went and found statistics, which I couldn't believe at the time, was that 36 in a million kids every year will die from the flu. 6 out of a million will die from COVID. And they didn't care about that statistic. And the next day in the newspaper wrote that my sister is a domestic terrorist. And that's when I kind of went, fuck all y'all.
Well, that's where I really have an issue with how people were treated during COVID, is that, you know, there were, for example, I want to say it was in maybe April of that year.
April 2020?
April 2020.
Okay.
There were, so this was 3 or 4 months. No, this was a month, 2 months, maybe.
March 17th
right.
was when they shut us down.
Sure.
I think it was March 17th.
So maybe it might have been
Which
May.
means March 16th was when Richard Levine took his mom out of the nursing home.
So it might have been May of 2020. There were a bunch of small business owners that got together, maybe like 1,000 of them, 2,000. They marched on the state capitol.
I remember that. Wasn't Mastriano there?
I believe he was.
Yeah.
Yeah. A bunch of small business owners got to the capitol, marched on the capitol. We want our businesses back open. Please reopen the government, blah, blah, blah. So everyone is, you know, damn them. They shouldn't be there. They're not masked. They're not. Why? They're being so selfish. Well, all it takes is, first of all, you know, in business, it's like Ronald Reagan said, that freedom's just one generation away from extinction.
Absolutely.
Well, in business, your business is one generation, not one generation. It's one bad quarter away from extinction. People think that small business owners are all rolling in dough. You know, they're barely making it by.
Yes.
But so these small business owners go and they're the worst people in the world, domestic terrorists, this, that, the other. Just a couple months later, the summer of love happens. George Floyd dies. And all of these protests go on, and suddenly nothing is said about that.
Nope.
These same people that were saying that you're a domestic terrorist because you're going, you want your business open, had nothing to say during all those protests where they were burning down government buildings, breaking into post office.
Remember Chaz?
Oh yeah. Yep.
Over in Seattle or Portland or whatever, the autonomous zone.
Yep. Crazy.
And more cops died during that than January 6th.
Yep.
And they don't talk about it.
Nope, not at all.
But so what
hypocrisy.
But it, like, in my mind, right, there's two things that I believe. One of them is the George Carlin thing, where it's like you don't need to have a formal conspiracy when interests converge.
Sure.
Right. And I think a lot of COVID was, I mean, it's just like everything. It's just like the media, entertainment, and I don't think all Democrats, but quite a few wanted to own whatever they think MAGA is, and the Republicans and Trump, and just every day it's like he's trying to kill us. He's telling us to drink bleach. He's trying to tell us, you know, to put lights down our lungs, which all of them ended up being true.
Right.
And that there are actual ways to treat respiratory illnesses. And it like, part of me can think that like it's a collective, what's the word? It's like just the desire to dislike Trump, MAGA, or Republicans is enough to create a fervor and find all of these things to say horrible things about and to castigate people and to call them pejoratives and blah, blah, blah. And then there's a part of me that goes, it seems like there's a plan here. It seems like there's been orders given or like, isn't it interesting that like in the summer of love, there was pallets of bricks at certain places that there was no construction there that just showed up?
That allegedly did happen.
I mean, that's interesting.
Yep.
I saw the first window get broke in, what was it, Ferguson?
Yeah.
Because I was watching it live because they had the streamers on there, and the first window, I think it was a Target. It was a white dude, and he looked pretty military. Not saying he was, but that made my spidey sense go up to be like, what is this?
Right.
Like, what? Why is it the people that aren't affected by this causing the most damage? And they're damaging the neighborhoods
that they live in.
People that live there.
Yep.
Which is, you're not raging against the machine. You're just burning your towns to the ground. So like part of me has the conspiracy hat on going like that. And the other part of me is like, but there was a rage and you forced people to stay in their homes. You didn't see stuff like that happen in Alabama.
Well, I'll tell you, this is not related to COVID, but I was a student at Penn State in 2011 when the whole Joe Paterno scandal, Jerry Sandusky scandal, occurred. Well, so all of this stuff is happening. Coach Paterno gets fired, and the students descend on the downtown area in protest. I remember that. Yeah. And, bricks are thrown through windows. News vans are toppled over. This was like a national news story. It was crazy. And so then, months and months go by. People are talking about how the students at Penn State are crazy. The way they behaved was inappropriate, blah, blah, blah. Well, they were alleging, Penn State and the students there were alleging that, it was these students from the State College High School that actually came down there, and they were the ones that were throwing the bricks and doing this, that, the other thing. Well, just like in anything, I don't know what the theory it's called, but it's like
agent provocateurs.
Well, it's like it's like the theory, the broken glass theory. One person,
broken window theory.
Yeah, one person throws a brick, and then other people are going to start throwing a brick. I don't think that's what the broken window theory.
No, the broken window theory has something to do with like poverty or something. Yeah. Well, it's the same. It's the same thing as like when you go to a wedding. You need the first person to go up and dance before everybody goes up and dances.
Exactly.
And I think, there's a rage.
Yeah.
Like going back to the Nick Fuentes thing, like there's this rage of like the people in charge are not. It seems like they don't give a damn about the people that they're in charge of. And I'm not. And I'm saying on a national level. Locally, I think it's more because you can hold you see that your elected official at the grocery store or the bar. Yeah. You can talk to that guy.
You can. Yeah, I get held accountable.
Do you get a lot of shit?
I get held accountable quite a bit, and that's fine. I'm happy to answer a question when somebody has something to say. Just be respectful. That's all I ask.
Well, have polite discourse. There's nothing wrong with that. If you're going to come up
and say "f you," you did this or that. That's a different story. I'm probably going to be a little angry at you, and I'm going to walk away. Hopefully I don't yell. So when you ran at like the height of all this heat, like 2022. It's in the middle of the Biden presidency. Yeah. Trump's still out there. People like me are like, fuck all of them. Yeah. 2021, I ran, and that was right after the 2020 election.
That was
that election, obviously a disaster. People were all angry. And then, we kind of said it was this big political shift where people were so angry over that election. Republicans came out in droves and voted in that election. And then we had a clean Republican sweep actually for all of the countywide elected offices in Luzerne County that year. 2021. In 2021. So we had 5 council candidates, all Republicans, that won. We had 2 of our county judge candidates, both Republicans, won. Our controller candidate won. And then that was just kind of like this big political shift in the council. Ironically, this year we had the opposite thing happen.
How does that happen so fast?
Right. I have theories on that. Not all of it has to do with necessarily the candidates themselves. I think that it had a lot more to do with us in 2021 than it did that we were Republicans. So I ran and did all of that. And I'll tell you what, it was there were a lot of people that were angry and upset about the government. They had a lot of grievances that were, I don't think, being accurately placed on the county. They were being placed on the state government, the federal government. But, when you're running for office, you have to say, oh yeah, we're going to do our best to try to work with blah, blah, blah and do this, that, the other thing. So
you think a lot of their grievances were aimed at other government bodies? Not. It's like when somebody you care about gets mad at you for no reason, and you go to yourself, well, that's not really about me. Right. Something else is going on.
Yep.
So you think they just aim their grievances at the closest place they can aim their grievance at?
Yeah.
The more easily accessible.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, like, here's an example. Right now, and I know this is happening up here in Lackawanna County too. There's this big debate on the data centers. And I don't know
what's those things.
I don't know.
What's a data center?
Why am I bringing this up? But there's this big debate on the data centers, and they're under the people who are against them are under the impression that, at least in Luzerne County, that we have the ability to stop them, but we don't control the zoning for Luzerne. For
the county council does.
The county council only controls the zoning for like 20 of the municipalities in the county because we do the zoning for them because they don't want to do it themselves. But we don't control it for the other 56 municipalities.
Right.
So the ones that are in in the path, I'll say the path or like the desire of these companies that are trying to build data centers, they control their own zoning, and they're, most of them have either been fine with it or have said, okay, but you got to do this or you got to follow this zoning code. But if the zoning law says you can do this, then they're going to come in and do it. But a lot of that regulation falls on the state level too. And now that there is some pushback by the local governments, the local citizens, the federal government's getting involved too. President Trump signed. President Trump signed. I think it was an executive order. He signed multiple executive orders related to these data centers that they're going to just be everything. It's all going to be fast tracked and streamlined. So, my thought process on this is I agree with the citizens that say these things need to be placed in certain areas. Let them be in industrial parks. Let them be on, mine scarred land. Don't put them in virgin woodland 5 feet away from a house. I agree with all of that. But, if they're coming to an industrial area and you still say, I don't want it, or I don't think this is a good idea, somebody above the level of government where you can actually make a difference is going to come in and reach their hand down and say, all right, guess what? We tried to give you guys the ability to do this on your own, and now you're screwing this up on us or screwing this up on our benefactors. So we're gonna.
But at that point, don't we lose our ability to self-govern?
Yeah, we do. But that's
because we're a commonwealth, right? Isn't that the way it's supposed to be?
Mm-hmm. No, that is happening, and I think that's something that's going to have to be discussed on the judicial level.
Yeah, but after the goddamn thing's built,
right?
Because lawsuits take forever.
Yep.
And there's no. Did you know I went down to Ashburn to Data Center Alley?
Okay.
Yeah. Did you know that I did that?
No.
Did you see Jamie Walsh's thing?
I did.
That was me and him.
Okay. All right.
It was. I mean, Jamie uses the word apocalyptic. I don't know if it's that.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's that bad, but it's pretty close to apocalyptic. Mm-hmm. Like apocalyptic to me is like, oh, this is the end time. Satan's back. The people down there don't seem to have gotten any benefits from it. Okay. And my view on the data centers is that eventually it'll become totally totalitarian, where they know everything, and they can and they know where you've been, how many times you've peed today. Right. I just find that incredibly invasive from what a government's supposed to do, because you have a right to privacy. Mm-hmm. That's my fear of that, because I don't want to get a speeding ticket that is immediately taken from my bank account or whatever, just to keep control. Because that
happens in other countries. That happens in China.
Well, my thought process on the data center thing is that, like, Trump is wanting us to be first, but once everybody's hooked in, it doesn't matter who was first, because the oppression just comes. And that's the thing that scares the shit out of me, because it's not about making AI videos. Mm-hmm. It's about knowing everything about your bank accounts, about your transactions, about where you drive with your car, where you are in your house, what stuff you look up, and it has access to all this stuff. And the other thing is like, let's say you build a 500,000 square feet data center, right? Mm-hmm. And they all have like these pods that you can like lease out or rent or whatever. And the way technology works, I think something called Ohm's law, where it's like every 18 months, everything like doubles. And
what
the
they can do. Computers, right. Yeah.
So at that point, like say 10 years down the road, you need a 2/3 less space, and you need less electricity, because it's all. So what happens to those things in a decade? Mm-hmm. And yes, is it hopefully it's money for the town that they build them in. But like when they leave, they're gone. It's the same thing as the solar farms. Mm-hmm. Like the solar farms get all these agreements to clean up their shit when they're done, and they never do. They file for bankruptcy or dump it off on somebody else, and then the city or the county or the borough is just holding the bill to get rid of poison land. Mm-hmm. So like people like me, like that's how we look at it, where it's like in the long term, is this a benefit or not? And we don't, and a lot of times we don't trust the people in elected positions to go, I realize that this is not good right now, but we can get X amount of dollars and either property tax revenue or some sort of share. I believe North Pocono is going to get like $64 million the first year, North Pocono School District, which is great. Right. What are you going to do with that money to set us up for the future, to not have to rely on a data center or the money coming in from that? Mm-hmm. And it's like a really dark concept, the data center thing. And then you don't, and one of the things that nobody talks about is power. Where are you going to get the power?
Well, I think a on the power issue, the data center issue.
We can talk about this for 8 hours.
Is totally multifaceted, multi-pronged. So there's all different kinds of issues. I'll tell you on the power issue, that's a self-inflicted wound on our part. In Pennsylvania, we have all this energy as a state. Yeah. We have all this energy underneath our feet. We could be the de facto, I don't want to say power generator,
the Saudi Arabia of America,
of the country, maybe besides Texas.
Yeah.
And we choose not to be because of our stupid laws and the politicians that support those laws. When we first started drilling for natural gas back in the early 2000s, people were like, "Oh my God, watch Gasland, Dimmock, the water coming out of the spigots in the fire," or whatever. Yeah. That stuff was happening before all of that took place.
Yeah, they never told you that.
They never told you that part. That was already happening. But so they scared people into not allowing us to do that type of stuff anymore. But we could be such a revenue positive state. And you know what? All of these things that are happening, when the natural gas companies or oil companies, when they get these permits now, they have to follow all these environmental guidelines. That's why it takes 10 years, 15 years to build things anymore. That's why it takes 5-6 years to build a bridge instead of, 5 months, which it should. I mean, it's
or
not
the Chinese doing like a day and a half.
Exactly. I mean, that's, like we have these issues in Luzerne County with a couple of our bridges where they're major thoroughfares. They are currently shut down because of, lack of care over decades, not anything that's gone on over the last couple of years. It's just, we were just at the end of it.
Yeah.
And we need to get them rebuilt, but we're not going to have the bridges rebuilt until I'm running for office for the third time. So
that's crazy.
Yeah. The first bridge that's closed right now won't be reopened until if I decide to run for a third term for council. That's when it'll be open, when I'm in the middle of running for that third term. The second one more than likely won't be open until the year after that. And the residents are angry, rightfully so. And there's literally nothing that we as a county government can do to speed this along by shaving off years. We can shave off weeks. We can shave off maybe a couple of months if we streamline a process where we say, hey, all right, county council is supposed to make this decision, but we'll let the administration make the decision instead because it takes too long for us to figure things out. You have to get something on an agenda 2 weeks later, then you vote on. We can shave a couple of weeks off of something, but we can't shave months off of a couple of months or a couple of years off anything because of all the regulations.
I think that's one of the reasons why people are so pissed off is stuff like that.
I agree.
It's 100%. It's like, we could fix this, start fixing it tomorrow.
I follow on TikTok. I follow this account called the Policy Committee. It's a Pennsylvania State House Policy Committee, and it's mostly Republicans that are on there, and they're always talking about how, like for example, Louisiana could build a steel plant in 10 months because of the way that their regulations are put together, and it would take us 10 years to build that same steel plant. If they did a pipeline, federally, it took them like 10 years to build Keystone 2 or whatever it was, and they had a pipeline that went through Louisiana that was the same length, and it was built in like a year and a half. And in Pennsylvania, that's our problem. We can't build a new steel mill in 2-3 years. We can't build a new bridge in 2 years. We have to wait 6, 7, 8, 9 years for a new bridge or a new plant or a new power plant even. I mean,
but by the time it happens, everyone's forgotten about it. You know what I mean?
Totally. I mean, we're used to it.
I think they're counting on that.
Yeah.
I think I don't think it's a bug. I think it's a feature.
Yeah.
That where like the stagnation of progress.
Well, I certainly don't forget about it. I have to drive through Pittston every single day, and one of those bridges being closed, it causes traffic jams all the time.
Oh, the Pittston bridges.
One of the bridges that I'm talking about is in Pittston. Yeah.
Is it down?
Yeah, it's not down. It's just closed because it's unsafe.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, and listen. I mean, it is what it is. Like we're working on it, and it's hard to tell people that, listen, we're doing this as fast as we can and as quick as we can, but we're constrained by craziness, by all these regulations.
Can I give you some shit real quick?
Go ahead.
Did you publicly say that clinging to the support for Donald Trump needs to stop? Calling it not the Republican Party?
I did.
Did you do that?
I did do that.
When did you do that?
January 6, 2021. And I have since had a major shift.
Did you get shit for saying that?
Not initially. Not initially. No. So
at first you were Team Reason.
I'll tell you I'll tell you what happened. And I'm glad somebody's brought this up, because I've expected to have this conversation happen at some point where I can talk about the reality of it.
That's what happened when I first met you. You came over and you introduced yourself to me, and then you brought it up. And I remember thinking to myself, I'm like, why would he bring that up?
Yeah.
Like, why? Like, that's such a strange, not in a judgmental way.
Sure.
I was just curious. I was like,
well, I was just wondering, maybe
that was one of my bigger turning points where I was like, oh, this is not what they tell us it is.
So, so what happened was the election of 2020 happens, we know the controversies behind that.
Yeah.
And I totally could understand why people would think that the election, there would be some, rigging, there would be some issues with counting votes, things like that, because the way that the election occurred was different than any other election had ever occurred. You're voting in these large centers instead of voting, in your precinct like you normally
your neighborhood,
do.
like you usually did.
And then they stop counting the ballots at 2 a.m. randomly, and then 6 a.m. comes or 8 a.m. comes, and they start counting the ballots again, and then boom, huge spike for Joe Biden.
Yeah.
And then Joe Biden is the most popularly elected president ever, despite the fact that he was hiding in his basement for the 6 months before that. I
think there's a rational explanation to say that that's not possible, because people who would have hated both of them just wouldn't have showed up.
Right.
Like, I don't think anybody would protest vote Trump.
So I totally
Biden.
Right. I totally understand why a lot of people had issues with that election. I can see all of that. And then on January 6th, listen, I'm friends with people that were there at the Capitol that day. I know people that were actually, the first time I ever listened to your podcast was Frank Scavo.
Yeah, what'd you think?
Yep. And I said to myself, I like Frank. He's a good guy. He and I, sometimes we butt heads a little bit.
Yeah, but it's as you would a family member or a friend.
Right. But I'm, as I say all the time, I'm, the Republican Party's a big tent party, so everybody's welcome.
Yeah.
I listened to that and I said, I want to hear this out of his mouth. I want to know exactly what he saw that day, exactly what happened. And he told the story, and I thought, okay, that's different. That's not what any of us were led to believe. Now, I had already had a different opinion about January 6th.
I made it a point in that interview to show his footage before we even talked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because it's like, okay, here's what he saw. Here's what he said.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what he did.
Right.
It's up to you to decide whether or not he's being genuine or he's being disingenuous. And I find Frank incredibly genuine.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. He's a very genuine person.
Like, what you see is what you get.
Right. Exactly. And I respect that about anybody who's that way, because it's very easy. And I'll, just being honest, I sometimes feel like I have to, I don't want to say put on a facade, but I have to be a little bit more reserved than I can be. Tempered. That's a better word. A little bit more tempered than I would want to be. I mean, listen, I'm Italian. Like, I want to.
I get it. I get it.
Like, I have my hands down here and I feel like I can't talk. But
get the ball gag out of my
seriously. Mouth. But so, going back to what I said about hypocrisy. So 2020, going back to May, the people protest in front of the Capitol and they're being called domestic terrorists. Then the George Floyd protests happen. Nothing. I was saying, hey, these people are breaking windows. These people are causing all this mayhem. We shouldn't be doing this as a country. This is not how we protest. January 6th happens, and I see all the news footage, and I fall for it. I saw it and broken windows. And you know what? I still look back on it.
Because you can't criticize what happened in the summer and not criticize what happened on that day.
Yeah.
If what they told you is true.
Right. Exactly. So I saw that, and you see the spliced clips of what President Trump said, and then, oh wait, this 30 seconds is missing from the clip, and it's so easy to have that opinion form. And I was really angry that day. I really was. I was angry at the Republican Party, because I thought, wow, this is like everything that I've been saying over the last year about what we're trying to fight against as the Republican Party. Like, we're supposed to be the party of the real peaceful protest, the real, like, hey, we go here and we address our transgressions with the government in a way.
Polite discourse without violence.
Exactly. And I saw that footage that day and I got angry, and I posted a video on Facebook.
Oh, you did a video?
Oh yeah.
Oh, John, no.
Oh yeah. Posted a video on Facebook. 2021.
Words you could at least go like, I kind of meant this video. You're screwed.
I know. Yeah. Video on Facebook. And so actually it's funny enough, 2021, I run for council, never gets brought up. Nobody ever says a word. No one says anything about it because I've been a loyal member of the Republican Party since. So
you make your comment January 6, 2021, then run in the primary for May of 2021.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And then it never gets brought up. No one ever says a word about it. No one says anything. And again, I think part of that is because I've been such a loyal member of the Republican Party since I'm like 12 years old, like I said.
Right.
So, people know, and listen, I'm generally going to support the Republican candidate as long as they believe in the 5 absolutes or whatever it is.
TJ's onto something there.
No. It is accurate. It is accurate. But as long as you believe in like a lot of the tenets that I believe in and I think the Republican Party stands for, I'm going to support you. And I that's why I have an issue with people trying to primary Republicans that are already in office and things like that. But that's a different story. But so, I run for the county council seat. I win. I come in first place in the primary.
Okay.
Yeah. Came in first place in the primary. I came in first place in the general election. So, I kind of thought, all right, this is like, I didn't think anything of the video. It was still on Facebook, still there, like out in the ether. In 2022.
You didn't change your views up until that point, did you?
Yeah, probably a little bit at that point because I started like listening to what was being reported and actually taking some time to think about it. Like I said, I when I posted that video, I was a little angry. I was like, and I certainly learned a lesson. Hey, maybe you shouldn't write something or post something so quickly.
Yeah.
When you're pissed off.
Yeah.
But in 2022, I get approached about running for the open state rep seat in my state house district, the 118th.
Now, whose seat is that?
Currently, Jim Haddock holds that seat. He's a Democrat.
Gotcha.
There was
still your district?
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. And so I get approached about running for that seat. And I initially said, I just got elected to council. I really don't know if that's a good idea. And a couple of people that I tend to listen to politically that like give me good advice. They said, John, you really need to do this. You should run because, we need somebody that's actually going to have a shot at winning this election. And you're from Pittston, but you're a Republican. Like that is kind of like the secret sauce of what can make a Republican candidate win in this district because it's getting more Republican, but we just need someone to push it across the finish line. We think you could do it, especially based on your performance from the council race last year. So I said, all right, I'll think about it. Well, in the meantime, there was already another candidate who had declared. It was James May, Congressman Musers, chief of staff for his Pottsville.
He works for him.
He works for his Pottsville office. I know, and he used to be the PennDOT
chaplain or something.
No, that was what he did in the military. He was a chaplain. By the way, James May is a very good man, nice man,
very nice guy.
And
super nice guy.
So he's already running. And I'm like, okay, this is an open primary. There's another Republican running. They're already announced. But then my people that are like, that I really, really trust politically are telling me that I should do this. So I said, screw it. I'll do it. All right. I was coming right off this successful campaign that I campaigned really hard, by the way, in the county council race. And it's bigger than the state house district. So I knocked on a lot of doors. I was everywhere. Luzerne County's huge.
Right.
So I go into this race and half of the districts in Luzerne County, half the districts in Lackawanna County. Well, I didn't know as much about, now I know a little bit about Lackawanna County and like the Triborough area, which is mainly the main part of where the 118th goes into Lackawanna and some of the other towns. But I had to learn a lot really quick. I was working full-time at the fire department and part-time at council. I think I was still working part-time at the ambulance actually at the time.
Okay.
And I was on council.
Wow.
And I'm running for state rep.
And you have a girlfriend.
And I have a girlfriend. Yeah. She wasn't too happy with me that year.
I don't think so.
And we just moved into our house the year before. So projects were going on. Oh yeah. I was like totally absent. Thank God.
Where was your critical thinking going like, I don't know if I can handle all these problems at the same time?
I'm used to high stress situations.
Like I get
5,000 things going on at once. But so I decided to do that. And in the midst of the primary, the video surfaces.
Okay.
And that was it. So it gets that video of me January 6th making those comments resurfaces, and essentially.
So what do you mean what do you mean resurfaces? Like you like?
Oh, he used it against me.
May?
Yeah, he used it against me in a political attack ad. And you know what?
On TV or the internet or both?
The internet, and there was a political mailer that went out.
Okay, what did it say?
It basically said John Lombardo is an anti-Trumper. He's a rhino. Don't trust him. Don't vote for him. That's it. And
did you expect that?
No. Because I thought, like this video, I posted it like a year and a half ago. I completely forgot about it.
And I thought they're putting videos out about me.
And I thought, I just go, son of a bitch. I did say all that stuff. I'm like, I don't even really believe that anymore either, too.
Right.
So I was like devastated by it. And I don't think that was the only reason why I didn't win in the primary. But it was definitely probably one of the bigger ones. And so ever since then, periodically, it's only a little clip of the video where it says, it says the thing about the Republican Party and Donald Trump.
There's no full context.
There's no full context. Nope.
Except the only one that you posted.
I deleted it.
Oh, you did?
Right when I knew it was going to come out, because it was already, being talked about, because people were sending it to me, like other Republican.
Dude, you should have leaned in.
You know what?
Once you delete the thing, they're like, wait a second.
Yep.
It's like, yes, this is real. Yep. I felt that at the time.
I did say that. No, did I? I don't remember.
Well, maybe you could say
maybe
it now.
I didn't. Yeah, I'll say it now. But that is what happened. And so I lose the primary.
Yeah.
And then James May goes on to lose the general election. And now this is the one seat that can flip the majority. So I'm really hoping that our next political candidate, whoever that is, in the 118th district is going to be successful.
So January 6th happened.
Mm-hmm.
I was doing a shoot that day. And all of my liberal friends started texting me.
Okay.
This is what you voted for.
I was going to say, was this after you'd switched parties already?
Oh, yeah. Like, this is all on you. This is this is that. And I was kind of devastated. I was like, you got to be kidding me. But then I was like, I remember thinking to myself, like, during the day, because I couldn't watch any clips because I was working.
Mm-hmm.
I remember thinking to myself, I'm like, well, they lied to me about the good people on both sides thing.
Yep.
So I'm just going to give it like a day to let it fester. And then I'll deep dive it and actually find out what happened. Well, by January 7th, it was Pearl Harbor, and the inmates are running the asylum and blah blah blah. And
I'll tell you, not to interrupt you, that makes me extremely angry that there are people in our government that will equate January 6th
to Pearl Harbor and
9/11.
Yeah,
that's just retarded. A total disservice to this country and to what happened on those days.
So I live at my grandfather's house. I'm really fortunate to have like the family homestead.
Mm-hmm.
And it was all carpet in the house. And my mother over the summer, said, I think there's a slate floor under here. So we ripped it up. And we took all the glue off and everything. So I have this beautiful slate floor. And I had like this TV. And I get on YouTube and I found a video. It was about 3 hours long. And I'm sitting on the floor on the slate floor with my butt.
Okay.
For 3 hours. And do you know what cinema verite is?
I've heard of it, yeah.
So cinema verite is basically like a documentary with no narration. It just gives you time, location.
Sure.
That's it. There's a great documentary called Apollo 11 that CNN did about the Apollo launch going to the moon. There's no narrator. It's just like shit as it happens. Beautiful. Okay. So it was the cinema verite thing of like the Instagram stories, the Snapchats, the Facebook lives, the YouTube lives, all those things. Just here's where we are. We're at the ellipse. We're here. Mm-hmm. First breach. Ba, 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 ba. And you saw all this footage. And by the end of it, like I was riveted. I was like, oh my God. This is not what they're saying it is. Mm-hmm. This seems very performative. It seems like the guys that were smashing the windows are not the guys smashing the windows. I saw the first assault, which was actually from the Capitol Police. They shot a guy in the face with a pepper ball, and it went through his cheek. Mm-hmm. I watched all those people get killed.
Well, there was only one person that actually died.
Somebody had there was a heart attack that later died. Mm-hmm. There was, but no police were killed that day.
There were officers that had
injuries
and medical episodes. Yes. Some of them that one or two of them I think did pass away
days later.
Yeah,
over that, but they could. If it was an autopsy, they can't equate it to that. Mm-hmm. There are people who want it to be that reason. It could have been the stress from that day. It could have been all that stuff. But that stress could have happened if you get in a car accident. You know what I mean? So you can't say that. You could say that they might be related, but you can't say that like the people there maliciously intended to kill somebody days later from a heart attack. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay, so I remember looking at my wife going like, yo, that thing was not what the TV and everybody's saying it was. There's a lot of nuance to that. Mm-hmm. Trump never said the things that they said that he said. And you watch, I've interviewed Frank, but I've talked to other people, and you always have to ask the questions like, when was the moment that you realized like, probably shouldn't be doing this? Mm-hmm. And none of them realized it walking up.
Right.
None of them realized it until they were inside. Mm-hmm. The one person I have the cell phone footage. She didn't realize it until the gun was pointed at her. Like, oh, maybe we shouldn't be here. Mm-hmm. They thought they were going to go in there and they thought that they were going to certify the elections regardless, and they were going to go home. Right. And then they started. Once somebody goes and dances, yep. They all do. Mm-hmm. And within the next morning, I woke up to send that to people. It was gone. It was gone.
Yep.
And that's when I was like, all right, something's afoot here. Mm-hmm. Something's weird. So I never knew like the exact things that happened that day. And then since then, you have like Nancy Pelosi coming out saying like, right. We should have had the National Guard there. And then you find out that they were asked to have the National Guard there, and that the Sergeant at Arms was like, or the Capitol Police Chief wanted to do all this stuff, and they were turned down and blah, blah, blah. And my philosophy on it always is like, if you don't tend to the leaking faucet on the third floor, you want it to flood the basement.
Sure.
So inaction could be a possible motive because it's all about owning Trump and MAGA.
Right.
Who no one can define. No one can define MAGA for me, which is a fascinating thing.
Right.
But that was my thing on January 6th. There's this great documentary. It's about 106 minutes and it's almost verite, and it's all about January 6th, time, location, who was where, who was doing what.
Okay.
And I send that to people too, because they're like, fuck Trump, fuck January 6th, they're all fucking criminal. I said, watch this. If it changes your mind, it does. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But realize that like people in authority lie, and the media lies, and all these people lie, and you should be the one trying to figure out whether or not you believe it or don't believe it. Don't let somebody tell you what to believe.
Yeah, I think that it is very difficult to, if you're just a lay person, to decipher
totally
what's accurate, what's inaccurate.
Very.
And I try to be sympathetic to everybody's thought process, where unless you're someone that is totally ignorant, and you purposely are.
Yeah.
But if someone sees something on the news, they might say, "Hey, listen, this is on the news. I believe it. Why would they lie?" But you don't realize.
Honestly, John, I have nothing wrong with your video.
Mm-hmm.
I have nothing wrong with what you did. As a matter of fact, people should have praised you for being honest in the moment.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, it was a moment that I felt at the time, based on what I was seeing, was not reflective of what the Republican Party was supposed to be.
Yeah.
Now, again, since then, there has been a lot of information that's come out about what happened that day. A lot of theories about what happened, who was involved, who threw the first brick, all that other stuff.
Yeah.
But in that moment, I thought, this really is like a total 180 from the other thing. Like, I mean, when I tell you, I was like a rabid dog on social media about people that were going after these small business owners that were saying, "Oh, you should report your friends for having Thanksgiving that had more than 10 people at it." It was
who did that? The Nazis.
Yeah, exactly. And that was one of the things I said, "Oh my God, I crucified for it on social media." And then that happens, and I said, God, looking at all this stuff, I can't be a hypocrite here.
Yeah, no. Look, if it was what it was, I would say you're absolutely right, because you can't. One of the worst things in the world is to be a hypocrite. It just sucks.
I hate hypocrisy. I really do. And listen, I'm not saying that I'm perfect and that my opinions are always the same. Nobody is. But like, if I always tell somebody, I try to shoot as straight as I possibly can, and again, respectfully, and I try to be tempered and measured. But if I have an opinion, I'm going to tell you what it is. If I, like, for example, things that I do on council, like if I'm going to vote a certain way, this is the way I'm going to vote. And if I change my mind, you're going to know that I'm changing my mind before the vote. I don't want you surprised, because people do that to me all the time. And I'm like, why the hell did you do this? Why did you change your mind? Now I'm sitting here looking like a bozo because I voted this way, or I, advocated for this thinking that you were going to support me and you didn't. So I always try to be as straight and truthful with people as possible, because you know what? You're going to get called out for it if you're not.
Sure.
And that's an uncomfortable conversation to have. And I'd rather not have that as one of the 5,000 uncomfortable conversations I have to have every day.
J6 is one of the big ones that is very uncomfortable for people, because I think it lets them it shows that we're not insulated from the way human nature is.
Yeah.
You know? And I talked to a lot of people from that day, and a lot of them thought that they were being attacked by their own government, which is why they got upset. You know, they saw an elderly guy get hit in the face with, you know, pepper spray or a pepper round. You know, those things do damage. And flashbangs. You ever see the footage of the guy just indiscriminately just tossing flashbangs one after another into the crowd? Right. I mean, those people think like we're here to, this is our house, and then now you're attacking us.
Yeah.
You know? And I think that, like, you know, one of the biggest things in the world that I respect so much is for people to go, I got that one wrong. You know? And I think that that's okay. And I think that, like, don't sweat that shit. Don't sweat the shit that they give you for.
Yeah, I'm
you know
not,
who it is? It's just people who want to hurt you.
Well, you know, the other thing too is, and I laugh about it all the time, is that, you know, I've worked on every single one of President Trump's campaigns. I've worked on every Republican campaign that has come, you know, from dog catcher all the way to president of the United States ever since I got involved. Every single year I'm out knocking on doors for Republican candidates. Every single year I'm out trying to help the party raise money, especially in the last couple of years. Now that I have kind of a little bit more of a position of authority, I'm out trying to help our candidates. This year I worked my ass off on the election, trying to help every single one of our candidates out, despite the fact that there were one or two of them that I didn't really get along with. But I said, hey, listen, I'd rather have these Republicans in office than have people that I just fundamentally disagree with on how things work. And just to, you know, to have people that are constantly throwing these like, oh, John Lombardo's a rhino, John Lombardo's I hate when people use those terms, because it's like, you're who are you helping by trying to split the party up? That's what gets me really annoyed. Like, I get it at the you know, there's certain points where, that's okay for us to talk about and say, hey, listen, you did this. Why should I vote for you? Why should I continue to support you? Or why should we follow this path? That's fine. But then once there's a certain point where you have to say, okay, I'm no longer helping the party move forward. I don't know what they're doing, but like there's a point when you're not helping anymore.
I think it's really dangerous that we have two choices. I think it's really, because nobody fits in those two molds. Like whether it's people who are Democrat, you talk to a Democrat, you're like, oh, do you believe in all the Democrat stuff? Well, no.
Yeah.
Oh, Republican,
especially in this area.
Yeah, but the thing is like, I don't know why we still feel today that we have to pick one of two sides, because that's the most un-American thing ever. There should always be a third choice or a fourth choice, but they have like this control. There's this control of the parties over the states, so no matter who wins, we all lose. You know, and I think that's like, you know, I tell people about Congress all the time. You know, I'm like, do you really think that, like, my favorite was AOC and Matt Gaetz? On the floor, they hated each other. Yep. But then they go to lunch. You were talking about Tim Burchett with me earlier. Yep. They're friends. Don't tell me they're not friends. They're doing performance art for the televisions, and then they go have a burrito. You know, and that's most of the world. They just want people to believe that these people are mortal enemies and they don't talk to each other or have anything in common or care about their kids or care about their families. And I think that's total bullshit.
Sure.
You know, so like, so how many Republicans are on council now?
3. Well, there will be 3.
And so how many are there now before there will be?
7.
So you lost 4 seats.
Yep. 4 out of 5.
How did that happen?
Well,
how much time do you have? Do you have to?
No, I can talk as long as you want.
And if you hate any of this, you can just throw shit at me and leave.
Listen, I've already addressed probably the worst of what I think we were going to talk about.
I don't think that's bad at all. I don't think I still don't think that January 6th thing was bad.
No, I mean, listen, there's always tough topics to discuss. And like I said, I told you at the outset here, like, I'm not afraid to talk about any of them.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm here. But, you know, so what happened in this election cycle was kind of,
because it was like Luzerne's going to be Republican for decades.
Yeah, it was twofold. So as you probably know, Luzerne County has been trending very Republican ever since 2016.
Right.
You know, the whole Ben Bradley book, The Forgotten, all that other stuff. That's all accurate. That's all great. You know, President Trump tapped into that, and even, you know, on the state level, even this year, you know, our judge candidates, the state judge candidates, Matt Wofford and
the Barter, no, the other lady,
why am I forgetting her name?
That's
I could
okay.
picture
They
her
didn't win.
face. Right. Anyway,
They got whooped.
Maria Batista.
Yeah,
that was it. Okay,
I was saying
yeah. So the two,
right.
But the two of them, they won in Luzerne County, despite the fact that there was this massive turnout for the Democrats on the local level. So what happened was, in the primary, obviously we have this contested primary because we have the one faction of the Republican Party that doesn't like the other faction. So they run a couple of candidates. We have our 4 candidates, plus we added another person. We tried to run as a group. 4 of us got through the primary. 1 of us didn't. And then we had one other person that came in. So we all tried to run together loosely. But, I was trying to row the boat in the direction for everybody, because I kept saying, listen, all we got to do is, it was a 7-4 Republican majority because the Democrats took 4 seats 2 years ago in the last election. Before that, we had a 10-1 Republican majority on county council.
Shame on all of you.
Yeah. 10-1 Republican majority. We actually didn't get along that well when we had the 10-1 majority.
Which goes to prove it's not a deer in our thing.
It's not.
Yeah.
It really, especially local politics. It's all differing opinions about certain things. But anyway, so we have this split in the Republican Party. And then, I sat down with some people after the election and said, listen, we got to figure this out. Let's work together, and tried doing that. And then
after the most recent election?
No, yeah. After the primary,
okay,
not the general. But I said, we got to work together. If we don't, we're going to lose. Okay. We'll try to figure this out. Never got figured out. There's a million reasons for that. But anyway, so we go into the general election, and I'll tell you the main reason why we lost. There was an influx of outside money from California and Washington, D.C. to the tune of $1 million.
What? To Luzerne County?
$1 million.
Wait, shut the fuck up. Wait.
And it was from all of these PACs from California and Washington, D.C. One of them was the Jane Fonda Climate PAC.
Wait, is this real?
You can look it up.
There was $1 million funneled into the Luzerne County general election from out of state
for county council.
Okay, explain this to me like I'm an idiot.
Yeah,
because it sounds really abnormal.
It is. In 2021, I think I spent $5,000 on my county council campaign. I'll never forget. There was a guy who ran for council. I want to say it was in 2019, and I heard from somebody that he had spent $50,000. I didn't even look at the campaign finance report.
Right.
I just heard the number and I thought, who the hell spends $50,000 on this county council race for the county? Like, that's ridiculous. So I run in 21. I spend about $5,000. I think the party sent out a mailer for us that was probably about $25,000. So let's just say it was like $30,000 total if you put my money, and everybody else spent some of their own money. I think I probably spent the most out of anybody on council that year for whatever reason. Not my money. I was able to raise probably about $5,000. But anyway, so that's how much money that people are spending on council races. But before 2023, in 2021, we're spending like 25, 30, 40, maybe $50,000 total council race. 2023, for whatever reason, the Democrats that ran for council had some connection with these national PACs, and they were able to get about $250,000 that they funneled into the council race that year. So we had six seats up for council in 2023, 5 Republicans and the 1 singular Democrat. That Democrat was term limited, so he was gone. So, we had 6 Republicans that were running. And it was a ticket that was kind of split because there were issues in the party back then too. So there was like only certain people were supporting certain Republicans. Other people were saying bullet vote this Republican, that Republican.
It happens.
Whatever. Not really important to this part of the story. But the Democrats all run together, and they have about $250,000 that they funnel in, for literature, for mailers, for events, for things like that. And the Republican Party was kind of able to compete a little bit at the time, but they raised probably double the amount of money we did. So 4 of them get elected.
$250,000.
Yeah, four of them get elected. Only 2 Republicans get elected.
Out of those 6 seats.
Out of those 6 seats. So the balance goes from 7 to 4. The Democrats must have said, there it is. There's the secret formula. We just need money. And that's what happened this year. $1 million. You can go look at the campaign finance reports. It's crazy. And the reason why I have an issue with it, because I've been harping on this quite a bit since the election.
But why?
Because if a certain party controls county council, they steer the policy of the county. Not meaning they steer everything that goes on day to day. They steer the people that are in charge. So they can hire and fire the county manager. They can confirm or not confirm all of our division heads. And those half a dozen to a dozen positions determine the direction of the county. And then on top of that, they appoint people to our authorities, boards, and commissions. And that's where a lot of the rubber meets the road as far as like the ideas and things go forward in the county. Well, probably the most important one is the election board. And the election board is controlled by 2 Democrats, 2 Republicans, and a 5th person who the board appoints of either party. Right now, there's 3 Democrats and 2 Republicans on the board. So if you're in charge of the county council, you're in charge of what 4 people get appointed to the election board. And obviously, because our county is trending in a certain direction, the other party doesn't like that very much. And they want to be able to influence the policy of our elections as much as possible to protect drop boxes, to protect mail-in ballots, to protect other types of things like that. And that's where $1 million just goes right into our election. Because...
Okay, wait. Obviously, tinfoil hats are my thing.
Sure.
What is the incentive to spend $1 million amongst multiple PACs on a city council race?
Yeah.
In Luzerne, or on a county council race in Luzerne County.
Well, when you control that policy, I'm not saying you control the votes.
Yeah, but you think
you know what type of people are generally there's a big disparity in who votes by mail. There's a big disparity of who votes by drop box, and it's not in the direction of the Republican Party.
I look at what is it? Just these PACs? First of all, where the PACs get the money. Second of all, who enlightened the PACs to come to Luzerne County, and how did the media not make a huge deal about that when an average year prior to that was maybe $50,000 amongst all candidates being spent? Now just one party has $1 million spent there.
So,
don't you think that's a huge disparity?
Yeah, huge disparity. So the media, to their credit, there was maybe one or 2 articles in the newspaper about it. That's it.
That's a huge story.
Oh yeah, I agree. And again, my anger towards this, because again, like I said, I've been harping on this quite a bit since the election, has nothing to do with the fact that it happened. Because hey, listen, if you want to win an election, you use whatever tools are at your disposal to win that election. Good on the Democrats for doing it. But the problem is they now have set a precedent where these organizations, which are highly influential, which have a lot of money, have now donated money, and they might say, Jane Fonda might call up one of our county council people, maybe not her herself, but somebody from the PAC.
Hanoi Jane?
Hanoi Jane. They may call up our council and say, oh, you have to make sure all of our county buildings are LEED certified, or they're all green, or they're all this, or this policy is wrong, or this building project that you want to do in this area of the county is blah, 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 and on and on and on with every other PAC. So now the Republicans, what we have to do, and what we've already been doing, is we have to respond by finding money from our own PAC. So if I went to Gun Owners of America or the NRA and they gave us a $20,000 check, now we're going to have to start fighting for things that we really don't have any effect on, but we have to pass resolutions saying, oh, we support the Second Amendment. This is a sanctuary county, which we've already done, by the way. But all that type of stuff. So it muddies the waters of what our county government is supposed to do.
That?
No, I'm not saying that they will, that they have, but...
Oh, no, you're saying that downstream that could happen.
But they might. I feel that that's a big possibility.
Because it leads to aggressive corruption.
It leads to us now having to solidify opinions that really have no place in what we're doing on the county level. We're trying to...
I don't forgive me on this.
Sure.
I do not understand what incentive any of these organizations have in Luzerne County. Right. What is it? What does Jane Fonda have to do with Luzerne County?
Well, Luzerne County is, as I'm sure you know, is a bellwether county for the state of Pennsylvania. So goes Luzerne County, so goes the state. So if Luzerne County goes red, typically the state goes red. If we have policies that make it more incentivized.
Why? Because everything else is so decided. Every other county is so decided that
many other ones are, but it is like this in other counties. There's other places where they've inserted money into the races like this. Crazy
this might be a little aggressive to say, but it seems like a sort of warfare tactic.
I wouldn't disagree with that. I mean, it really is, it makes it really hard, to want to work together because, for example,
once you get elected.
Once you get elected, because I'm the only Republican out of the five candidates that was elected this time. So now I've been like jokingly saying, "Oh, I'm the lone survivor." Okay, but what I mean by that is like I've got nobody now. All of my allies on council, most of them, I have 2 other Republicans. Most of my allies are now gone, and I'm going to have to figure out how to get the things done that I want to get done. And, will the other party allow that to happen just based on the fact that they want to be in control? I don't know.
Has anyone looked into has anybody called has any media called the PACs and been like, why would you spend that money there?
Well, I think that there was some. I think that the media, again, I think it was just this newspaper
when we say
report.
Media,
the news.
What are we talking about?
The Citizens Voice, the Times Leader. I think the Citizens Voice did the biggest article about the money being spent. But again, it only happened after the campaign finance reports were released the first time and the second time. So
are these money is this in kind, or is this money that's being donated directly to the campaigns?
So some of it is in kind and some of it is money being directly donated. So the in kind donations were
how many? $1 million?
Yeah, $1 million.
Okay, so out of 5 candidates?
Well, so they were pushing for typically the 5 Democratic candidates.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean there were some PACs that only
did like mail pieces.
They did mail pieces, but they did it for the 5 candidates, or they did it for maybe a couple of the candidates I think there was one PAC that did like only 3 of the candidates because only 3 of them signed on to some pledge or something like that.
This is crazy.
Well,
which means that the people in Luzerne County are being manipulated by outside forces. Because that's all media is. That's all mail pieces, commercials, all that stuff is we're trying to manipulate you, right? And manipulation isn't a negative word because sometimes I'm trying to manipulate you to eat like the health food. Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
So what benefit? This is the thing I'm having a real problem with because this is the first time I've ever heard about this, and maybe I'm ignorant to Luzerne County, but like $1 million into a county council race is
unheard of.
I mean, that in 2 years. 3 years, what has the total aggregate money in a county council race grown by?
Oh,
that's crazy.
Yeah, 1,000%. I want to say more than 1,000%. If both parties were spending $50,000 on an election 10 years ago, 5 years ago,
now it's up to $1 million.
Now it's up to $1 million. I mean, and it's not
totally lopsided in one direction too.
Yeah, right. And that's because there's a lot of reasons for that, why the Republican Party wasn't able to manage this the way that I think that, especially on the state level, I won't even say on the local level, because I personally, and I know other people have been sounding the alarm about this for months and months and months, thinking this was going to happen, and it did. But on the state level, we've reached out a number of times to, elected officials on the state level and party officials on that level. And I mean, to say that they've been helpful would be an exaggeration. They definitely, I don't think they saw this as something that was going to be so important, but they'll find out if it's important next year when we're trying to defend our congressmen and trying to defend our state reps that are in districts that are not easy to win.
This is so nefarious. Yeah. This is such fuckery. It's to me, it's upsetting because, like I said, it's that this precedent was now set that I have to follow through with that now. 2 years from now, we're going to have to find out how to raise $1 million for 6 Republican candidates that are going to run, and who are those people going to be that are going to give us that $1 million? And we also don't know if the USAID money's gone yet, so those budgets might not be there in next year or the year after. Right. But nevertheless, the damage is done.
Yeah,
like I look at this the same way as like Chinese buying up farmland. Mm-hmm. Why? They have no reason to be here doing that stuff. Why? What interest does any PAC from California have to do with Luzerne County coal country? It's
bizarre. It truly is. And again, like I said,
you sound like a lunatic even thinking that like something's up. Yeah. This is so. Yep. These are like who. I will never ask you to disparage anybody on the council with, but like what like is it moms? Is it construction guys? Like who ran? Like what types?
Oh no,
of people?
it was. Listen, I mean, they were a diverse group of candidates, the Democrats, and I'm not saying that any of them are necessarily bad people.
No. But the perception is like.
But when you're again like just having that amount of money inserted into this type of race is just unprecedented, and to me, it's like something is happening here that is not normal. And what that is, I don't know. But at this point, for me, and I've said this, and I've sat down with a couple of the Democratic candidates that won, and I said, now is your time to prove that you're going to lead, and you're going to lead for all the citizens of Luzerne County, and that everything that happened in this election cycle is not going to reflect upon your tenure.
There was 5 candidates?
Yep.
Which is $200K per.
Yeah, it would be
not necessarily in the bank account, but like in-kind services, or like you would like, because I know how PACs are. They're like, we want you to put this support blah 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 paid for by blah blah blah. No one ever looks for the paid for by.
Yeah.
No one cares. Most people don't care.
Some of us do.
A lot of us do, because that's our first piece of evidence to being like, the candidate didn't put this out. Who did put this out? Why did this person put this out? Or why did this group put this out? Right. So just basic math, 5 candidates, $200,000 a candidate in either in-kind services or, actual donations. That's 4 times more than the total. Just one candidate is 4 times more than the total of the total election budget for both sides prior to 2023.
Yep. I would say so. Yeah, if they were spending,
how is this? I'm sorry, I'm harping on it, but like, how is this not like a massive?
It's
what happened here.
This is again why I've been
probably totally legal.
So it is. Oh no, it all. And again, like I said, like I don't really necessarily have an issue with the fact that the candidates.
I don't have an issue with the candidates or any of that. I'm just saying, like when
it's just that it happened, and there should be a lot more discussion about it. And again, like. I've been saying
we're bitching about our power bills going up.
Oh yeah,
and no one's worried about the budgets on the elected officials who are running for office.
Yeah, and again, like it's not like you're going there and you're making a life sustaining salary. Like we get an $8,000 a year stipend to be on county council. It's not like the commissioners that get a full time job.
This is so insane, John. Yeah. This is so insane.
It's crazy.
I didn't know anything about that until you just told me this. So I hope you don't think my reaction is.
Listen, not many people do. I mean, it's honestly like something that's really frustrating to me. And I'm trying to be really reserved about it because obviously the election didn't go so well for all of us. And like I had people that were.
It didn't go well because you were spending.
Yeah. I had people that were upset with me because they're like, you're a sore winner. You won. You're a Republican, and you're the only Republican that won. And I'm like, yeah, but I mean, like I know I won, because I worked really hard. And I'm not saying that my other candidates worked hard, but like there is just something went on that is just totally out of the norm. And that's what has me so upset because, and the other thing too is outside of all this craziness. Yeah. Outside of all this craziness is that the people that lost, my colleagues, my Republican colleagues, it has nothing to do with their political party. They were really hard workers and they all brought unique, diverse opinions to county council that I have learned to love because I don't agree with them maybe 50% of the time on a lot of issues. But I know that they're coming from a place of, okay, they have knowledge on this issue. This person used to be an engineer, so they have knowledge on this issue. This person has an accounting degree, so they're great on the budget.
Yeah.
And, like they have done really, really good things on council, and now they're not going to have the opportunity to do that. At least unless they run again.
What was the campaign promises that the new elected officials came in on that diverts from the whatever you guys were trying to do?
I mean, they were, one of the other things that upset me was that they were suggesting that the Republican leadership has been a failure, and then one of our candidates,
the Democrats suggested that.
Yeah, that's part of it. But then the other big thing that they were advertising quite a bit was one of our candidates is a previous councilman, Steve Urban, his name is, and
I met him. He seems like a nice guy.
Yeah. Steve. I disagree with him on some things, but Steve is principled. Steve knows, like he has a lot of knowledge about the county.
Yeah, and he's fearless.
Also fearless. Yes, that's true. You can't take that away from some people, like I said. But So he in 2023 had an incident happen in front of his house where he lives with a developmentally disabled individual. And I guess there were some kids in the neighborhood that were harassing that person. I don't really know the specifics of that aspect of the story, but at one point they threw a brick through his window.
Jesus
Back
Christ.
to the brick throwing. But at one point they threw a brick through his window. So I guess one of the next times that the kids were walking down the street, Steve walked out and he had a baseball bat in his hand and he was like, get off my porch, like that type of thing. And he ended up being charged with attempted assault or something like that. And that was right during
personal property, man. Right. You can't mess with that.
That was right during the 2023 campaign. So he obviously loses, and they rehashed that whole, just like the J6 thing with me, they rehashed that whole thing in 2025. And that was on every piece of literature. Did you know Steve Urban in the kitchen with the baseball bat? And then they had, don't vote for this radical or these other radical Republicans, and then my name and the other four.
So you're guilty by association for a guy trying to defend his home and his family.
Yeah.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah. And again, listen, hey, whatever. It is what it is. I don't remember what he pled to or whatever, but whatever it is, it's like something that's in the past and it's something that happened with him. And now, why do I have to necessarily be associated with it? And then I have to go and defend it.
You know why? Because the association is the thing that discredits you.
Right.
Like that. It's like this gross. It's this gross thing of politics that they're trying to guilt. Like when all else fails, guilt by association. And that's the identity politics shit.
Yeah.
Which needs to end.
Exactly.
I think people need to be smarter than all of this shit and think for themselves and don't read. Look, man, part of my business is actually sending out those mail pieces and commercials and digital ads and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But everybody who I work with, it's always like, we're going to be honest.
Sure.
I don't do negative stuff. I'll do comparative. We can criticize their record. Don't do anything. The personal shit, it's all salacious. It's the Victorian freak show. And people don't want that. They don't want to see that, all that shit.
Yeah.
And they also, I think they also don't want to see $1 million thrown into a county council race.
Yeah. And
only on one side.
They have no idea that it even happened.
What was the budget on the Republican side?
I think we were able to raise, so in the primary, I just know from what my faction of people raised in the primary, I think we raised somewhere in the neighborhood of $40,000. And then in the general, which was spent on all 5 candidates, most of it was, in the general, I think we raised about another 50 or 60, something like that. So it was about $100,000.
So you're at a 10-to-1 odds.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Just for buying real estate for radio ads, commercials, digital mail pieces, door hangers, cards.
And it was just even talking about it now is still just, I'm thinking about it and I'm exhausted thinking about what we were doing and how we had to claw our way to just get that $100,000 because it was all from local people. That wasn't from
PACs in California.
It was all from local organizations, business owners, just individual contributors from the Republican Party.
People who want to improve their own community, not improve other people's communities.
Yeah, some elected officials in the area helped us out too. So it was a lot of that. There was nothing that came, generally outside of this area.
I don't know if anything criminal happened, but I think it would be very. I think it would be very valuable for someone to pull the string on that sweater and figure out the reasons why and how.
Yeah.
Why did the money come here and how did it come here?
Well, one of the problems, I think, and again, this kind of involves, I don't know how to say the dying art of journalism, but investigative reporters just don't exist anymore. So
there's no budget for them.
Right. So you can't, you can't expect.
Do you know who the investigative journalists are? The LC Predator catcher. And he's funded. He's funded by donations from people like you.
It's true.
You know what I mean? Those are the only people that exist anymore because corporate isn't willing to do it. Local isn't willing to do it. The investigative journalism locally is dog shit, and a lot of them are really great people, but I think they're handcuffed by corporate.
Yeah,
and they're not allowed to go do it. Man, this is such an interesting.
It's crazy. It really is.
It's totally crazy. And then, how many other places around the country did this happen?
Who knows? Probably a lot.
Holy shit.
Yeah. It's definitely, again, like I said, my agitation has nothing to do with the results of the election. It has nothing to do with the candidates themselves. It has to do just with a desire, and maybe it's not even through the candidates, but because I think, many of them I've read and I've seen and I've heard what they've said after the election. A lot of them believe that they worked a lot harder than the Republican candidates, which I don't know that I would disagree with that 100%, but did they work harder than all of us to win 4 out of 5 seats? I also don't know about that.
You don't have to work that hard when you have $200,000.
Right.
So,
they have that opinion.
Spade.
And again, the other aspect of this too that I didn't get to mention was the all the stuff going on nationwide. That was when the government shutdown was happening, state budget impasse, the people yapping about President Trump, all that other stuff.
I think all those things are chess pieces. I think they're doing that shit on purpose.
Well, but it's all worth something. It's all worth 1,000 votes here, 1,000 votes there, because all of our candidates, if you look at the election results, I was the only one that was able to kind of transcend all that by a significant amount, but all the other candidates were within 1,000 votes of knocking off one of the other Democratic candidates. 1,000, maybe 1,500
So even with all that money,
votes.
It was still that close.
It was pretty close. And I said that during the election. I said, this election isn't going to be won by 5,000 votes. I mean, it was 4 years ago. There was a huge disparity between the Republican candidates and the Democratic candidates. But in this election, it was only 1,000 votes maybe between all of them.
So what do you think? Look, part of me thinks that the Republican Democrats wings of the same bird.
Mm-hmm.
It's just an asymmetry. What do you think that the county has to do? Because it was trending in a way towards, like, look, there are reasonable Democrats, there are unreasonable Republicans.
Absolutely.
But it seems like the vast preponderance of reason and accountability right now, currently in the United States, seems like it's on the Republican side. What is there to do moving forward? Because next year's midterms.
Yeah. I think that the Republican Party needs to make sure that we're more well organized. That's something that I think we had.
But isn't it fractured?
To some extent it is, but we did a lot of work this year to try to, have events and do door knocking and things like that. So we're doing a lot of good work. But we do need to make sure we're more organized amongst all of our people, not just the party leadership and the volunteers there. I wish that we could come together as a party, because I think that'd be really helpful to getting us, again, like I said, it's all worth something. That might have been worth, here's another statistic. I think there were 40,000 undervotes in the county council election, meaning 40,000 people, maybe not 40,000, but a number of people, thousands of people didn't vote for all 5 candidates.
So they did like a bullet or
so they might have bullet voted 1 person, 2 people, maybe 3 people. And those 40,000 undervotes, I would be willing to bet you dollars to donuts that it was mostly on the Republican side because of the fracturing. So if we had all of our candidates, everybody voted for all of our candidates, I think we would have been successful. Again, because like I said, on the state level, countywide, our Republican candidates won, which means that Republicans did turn out. It's not like they didn't. I know there's some people that have been saying, our Republicans didn't turn out as much as they should have. Well, I think they did turn out. Maybe more could have, but I think many of them did turn out. It's just that they didn't vote for all of the Republican candidates. And that's, again, once you're past a certain point, you have to say, okay, like, am I hurting or am I helping by doing this?
Is there a way to have like some sort of Camp David-y, bring all the factions together, we're not leaving this room until we come to an understanding type situation that could possibly happen? I mean, otherwise Luzerne County is, sorry guys, you guys are left up to the gods of PACs with millions of dollars, and they will now control your town without you even knowing it, or your county.
And that's part of the reason why I think the Republican donors have been trepidatious about giving us money, is because they see this going on.
Well, you don't want to waste your money,
right? Because first of all, you don't know who to give your money to, and second of all, you don't want to give your money to either of them, because if you do, there's a shot that, okay, only a certain amount of them are going to win, or there's potential that this could still, they're still going to, kick them in the knees or something like that. Who knows? I mean, I wish that we could. I would love to. I mean, I've on many occasions reached out to these people that are in the party that, you're willing. They put me on one side. I have always tried to get along with every Republican because I like all Republicans. I have no issue with anybody. You know, if you're part of the Republican Party, like
you're
part
Republican,
of, you're part of, right? Well, no,
no, one or two.
No. I mean, I would love to be able to get along with everybody. I really would. And
that's
and
regardless
I say that,
of party, though.
Yes. That is.
I think that's
accurate.
more what you're saying.
But in the Republican Party specifically, when I first got involved, there was never any of this faction fracturing stuff. That never really occurred. Or
did it come about with Trump?
It was no, not initially. I think it was more after, like I said, 2021, 2022 is when things started to really become problematic. But if like I said, especially on the Republican side, I would love to be able to get along with everybody because we're all trying to work towards the same goal, I think, is electing Republican candidates. And, at some point we have to say, all right, like, is a Republican you don't love better than a Democrat that you really hate? I don't know.
It's an interesting,
interesting
scenario.
Right. Yeah. I
mean, you'd think that like, oh, they're not like, I say this all the time about these purity tests, right? The left has it, so does the right, right? Where it's like, oh, you don't like trans, you're a transphobe, you're out of the group, right? With the Republicans, it's like, oh, you like data centers? Well, you're out of the group.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Or the other way. Like these purity tests where it's like, none of us agree 100% on 100% of things. And they have to give a little bit of grace to do the right thing. It's like, well, nobody's going to eat the meal because somebody made Brussels sprouts, so no one's eating tonight. And it's like, that helps no one. Right. That helps no one. And I can't, like, look, man, Lackawanna County has its own problems too. It's just, I don't understand. Like, you got a problem with somebody, like sit down, hash it out.
Well, that's one thing that I've,
and leave your ego at the door.
I've done that before. That's the thing. Like, I've done that with these people, and I say that with the most sincerity possible, that I go into these meetings. Sometimes, listen, I don't tell some of my people that I respect heavily. No, I don't. Yeah, I won't. There are people that I highly respect that respect me, that are helpful to me politically. That if they knew that I went and met with these guys, they'd be like, "Oh, what are you doing that?" Like, I'd have to hear about it for weeks and weeks and weeks on end. But listen, at the end of the day, like, I just want our Republican candidates to win. I just want good people to be in elected office. So I'm like, well, if reaching out is going to make that difference, then I'll do it. And like I said, I've done it on a number of occasions, but it always, it just goes back to like, all right, listen, I'm willing to listen. I'm willing to sit down and have this conversation. But then when something goes wrong, or like, for example, on county council, if I don't vote the way that person wants to, it's like, I'm immediately become the Antichrist. And where I'm like, okay, I mean, I didn't vote. Number one, you didn't contact me or reach out to me. Number two, like, we had a conversation. Or number two, this has nothing to do with these 5 absolutes that you talk about all the time.
Yeah.
So, like, where are we? Like, I'm looking to find where we actually disagree here.
I think there's a lot of truth to saying that, like, every action has an equal and opposite reaction, and I think that those two things exist on both sides of the bird. I just don't think that the right is as dangerous as the left, and the purity test thing, man, where it's like you gotta heat up the what do you call those things when they
brand?
Yeah, you gotta heat up the brand. You gotta put it on. If you're not willing to do that, then you're out of the group.
Well, it's certainly the Republican Party is not shy about being public about it. The Democratic Party, they're not.
But it's not the party. It's the people. It's the individual. The individuals are not shy about talking shit or criticizing or whatever. The party really doesn't do it.
Yeah.
As an entity. And I actually think that the parties, both parties, the Republican and Republicans in Luzerne and Republicans in Lackawanna, should get a little bit more active in their criticisms and information that they put out there, because they don't really do shit. There's no information to get out to the, like, nowhere in our lifetimes has it been cool to be young and a Republican as right now. Right. And do you see any outreach from either party or either Lackawanna or Luzerne?
Not as much
reaching
as
out to these kids.
Not as much as there should be. We have the Turning Point Gen Z.
Yeah, but they created
coalition.
themselves, and then I watch all the Republicans just be like, "Oh, shiny new thing that seems pretty cool," and they suck these kids in. And I pulled all those kids aside. I said, "Be wary of everybody." because you're an oddity and cool right now because of what happened to Charlie Kirk. Right. I said, but you can't get disillusioned by all this because most of it is run the illusion. It's all an illusion.
Right.
Because nobody's really boots on the ground anymore. Like that's the thing that I could say about TJ is he's on the ground. He does the things that the old guard in the party does not want to do. They don't want to go to the events. They don't want to sign up people to vote. And I think that there's a way for those two things to exist. It's like being in war, right? You should have a chairman that is respected by all. Not loved, not like, looked at to as some sort of deity, but respected by all. So like the groups can function together, but not have to be together. Right. Like the TJ people don't want to do the executive session shit, and the executive session shit don't want to do the TJ stuff.
Right.
And it's a perfect, like when the enemies are at the gates, isn't it incumbent upon everybody to get together for the greater good of not like we're not all living in fucking abject terror.
One of the things I'll never forget from my state rep campaign against James May was when he would always say, every year I watch the Army Navy game, and I always tell all my friends, I really hope Army beats the crap out of Navy. But I know that when they all put on that uniform and they go on the battlefield, they're all one team and they're together fighting the same battle. Yeah. I think of it just like that.
He's a smart guy, James.
Oh no, great guy.
Yeah.
Smart, very intelligent. And I appreciate, I'll be honest with you, one of the things that I know we didn't touch upon this very much, but one of the things I really appreciate about him is his how close he is to his religion.
Oh yeah.
I'm very religious. I don't talk about it super much to people. But I'm very spiritual.
You're not like flaying yourself like Da Vinci Code.
No, not doing that. but I'm really close with my religion, and I respect that about him. That he's very close with it too. But yeah, I mean, we need just to kind of, I think, take a step back and say, hey, listen, the party is doing what it's doing. And yeah, I think that there is room for the people that are in the grassroots. And by the way, this is one of the things that I always think about when I think about this issue is that I started in the grassroots. I mean, I told you that. I'm 12 years old, 13 years old, knocking on doors for somebody running for mayor of Wilkes-Barre, and all kinds of other offices. And that's all I've done. And I love doing that. I love knocking on doors. Like I knocked on probably not that many doors this year, maybe like over 1,000, but I knocked.
You love knocking on doors?
Well, I like it to the extent that you get to talk to the people directly. You know what they're thinking, and they're not afraid to tell you. You're on their porch. They're going to tell you exactly how they feel. And I'd rather that than,
I mean, that's more honest than anything.
Yeah. And if they don't like it, they'll slam the door in your face. That doesn't happen as much as you think, though. I've only had that happen maybe 3 times in the entire time I've been doing this.
Up here in Scranton, it's pretty tough to knock on a door as a Republican.
Yeah. But yeah,
like Trump, fuck you. Okay, all right.
But yeah, I mean, so I started in the grassroots, and I always thought I really would like to get into a leadership position in the party one day so that I can have some influence on things that are going on, because I feel like, I want it to be like that next generation. And now that I'm, there, I'm like, okay, I feel like I'm in a good spot and I want to keep things going. But I started out in the grassroots, and I totally respect that and love it. I still do it. So, I feel like there's a lot more that we all agree on than we disagree on. And I wish that we
can't agree with you more.
Yeah, I wish that we would be able to hash all that out and know that there's a place for both of us here. But knowing that there's a place for both of us requires that we can't be attacking each other.
Right.
I certainly want to be able to get along with everybody that does the grassroots work, because number one, I still do it. Number two, I'm an elected official that needs those people. I totally acknowledge that I need those people to help out. And, but on the other hand, you can't get too upset about the people that are in the party that are the big political donors, because as we have seen this year, you do need that money to some extent in order to win. And I mean, I don't think that a lot of these people are at, like, there's all this conspiratorial thought that people are like, oh, if you donate money, then you have to do this for me, especially locally. I mean, these national PACs, like I mentioned that before, that's just a thought I have in my mind. That's not, I mean,
$5-10 grand. Yeah. Look, man, I've seen people sell their soul for less.
Right.
But, the more money you get, the more, I think, the more money that you get, the more susceptible you become to that.
Sure.
Especially from like an individual or an individual entity, right? So I think it's the responsibility of the candidate to be, well, I ran for school board, right? I raised more money than I thought I was going to raise, and I never asked a person for a nickel. And they say, why didn't you ask me for money? I said, because if I ask you for money, then I owe you something. Well, no, you don't. We're friends. I said, it doesn't matter.
Right.
It doesn't matter. Like I can't do it. I want to be able to. I might do shit you disagree with. And I don't want to have that over my head where it's like, well, because of me, you were able to send those 4,000 mail pieces.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't want it. I'd rather just be me.
Yeah.
Of course, I came in last place because I'm a Republican in the city of Scranton.
That I believe it.
And it was okay.
I believe it.
What do you think? What's it going to be like working with the new county council? Like, what's your intention goal? And then I have one more question after that.
So my goal over the next 2 years at least is just going to be to continue doing what I'm doing. I think that now, more than likely I will not continue as the chair of council. So I'll have more time to concentrate on specifically doing initiatives and things that I want to do. Because when you're the chair, you have to, you're a
lot of responsibility.
It's a lot of responsibility that kind of takes you away from maybe doing things that you want to do on council. So I'm going to have more opportunities to do some of the things I want to do. And I none of them are anything hyper political that are going to be problematic. At least I hope they won't be. But I hope that I'll be able to work together with the Democrats and the Republicans that remain, and that we'll be able to get good stuff done. I just, like I said, the way that this campaign was run, it's not up to me to prove that I can work with Democrats, because I've done that for the last 4 years. I've worked with the Democrats and the Republicans on council many, many times on a ton of different issues.
Right.
So it's not really up to me to prove that I'm able to work with them. It's going to be the other way around.
Well, I hope that the new county council elected officials who received $1 million, which is so bizarre to me, don't feel. I hope they don't think that there's strings attached to that money, and I hope they can lead with pragmatism, critical thinking, and common sense, and forget party politics, because it's all, most of the time it's all bullshit anyways. It's just a way to chum the waters for the absence of daytime soap operas.
Yep.
If you could fix one thing in Luzerne County overnight, what would you do?
One thing in Luzerne County that I could fix overnight. Yep. Probably all of our roads.
All of them?
All of them. Every single one.
Well, how'd they go to shit for so long?
Same way as our bridges. Just decades and decades of
spending on stupid
disrepair.
Shit.
And what's funny? So on council, one of the things that happened when we went to the home rule government, which, by the way, Lackawanna County has home rule government too. They just don't have it the same way we do. They kept their commissioners and row officers. We didn't do that. But yeah, our roads have deteriorated significantly, and it's just decades and decades of just, I don't want to say mismanagement, but just like not
neglect.
Neglect.
We'll do that next year.
Yeah. So and lack of money, because the amount of money that was spent on things that I couldn't even tell you what it is. When council first became in existence in 2012, it would have been, the county was in $466 million of debt.
Holy
almost
shit.
$500 million. And now we've been able to pay all that down. So we have $26 million that goes to debt service every single year. And we'll be paid off in 2029, I think is one of our last payments. So we'll have 4 more years. We have like about $100 million of debt left. So that's what we've done over the last decade, almost decade and a half, paying down that debt. But one of the things that's been neglected is, there's more than one thing that's been neglected.
One of the major things.
Our roads have taken the hit for that, because that $26 million is money that doesn't get to go to roads. It doesn't go to get to paying our employees what they're worth. That's another thing I'd love, is if we could start paying our employees what they're worth. I just saw an advertisement for an open position that the county has, and it was for the executive secretary for our Office of Law, which is all our solicitors. And I was like, oh, that position, what does that pay? Probably like 60, 70 grand, $40,000. I thought, that person's going to be doing a lot of work for $40,000. Not to disparage. Listen, I get it. The salary is the salary, but we have a lot of people in Luzerne County that work in the government that should be paid more based on the amount of work that they do. Our sheriff's department, our corrections officers at our prison. So I've been working on that incrementally, but it's hard to do when you're trying not to raise taxes, when you're trying not to overburden, the taxpayers, and you need to kind of work on that like I said, like incrementally. And we've been doing that. We're looking for other sources of income, and it's going to happen. I mean, it's going to happen soon, but it's just.
Regardless of opinion on data centers, would a data center help the budget?
Yep.
To the tune of?
It depends on how big it is. I mean, you brought up Ashburn, Virginia.
Multiple data centers, maybe.
You brought up Ashburn, Virginia, Loudoun County, the North Pocono School District, the money that you mentioned.
Yeah.
I mean, just objectively, that money it's very difficult to say no to it. Because in Loudoun County, Virginia, I know this because I spoke to one of their county commissioners down there because I watched Jamie Walsh's video and his documentary and everything.
He did a great job making it.
Yeah. Whoever that guy was that filmed for him was awesome.
I don't know. No one saw him. It was good.
But I watched it. I wanted to listen and hear his side of the story because I know what his opinion is, and I know what the opinion of some of the people in those areas is, and I certainly sympathize with that. But I just wanted to see, like, okay, let me reach out to one of these people, and I just looked up Loudoun County, Virginia commissioners, data centers, and then there was one or two articles, and there was one specific commissioner that was mentioned. So I sent her an email and I said, can you tell me a little bit more about these things and what they do related to the county government? And she said, well, we've decreased our county property taxes like 5 times already because of these data centers in the last 5 years. And they have a different way of taxation there. There's like property tax on vehicles and other stuff.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
It's
they
bizarre.
were telling us down there.
But they decreased their property taxes multiple times. Now there's people that constantly advocate for us to decrease property taxes, but we're not in a position where we could do that, because if we did that in Luzerne County, we'd be literally cutting services for people.
I think part of the thing about Ashburn is like, it's not on calm dumps.
Well,
you know what I mean?
That's the difference between here and there, I would say.
Like down there, it's literally next to baseball fields and tennis courts and walking trails. Like, part of the scary thing is like, they have this, we went to one of the last places we went was like this walking trail, and you have like 500 kV lines like above your head. Mm-hmm. And then you go read up the health literature, and they're like, minimum safe distance is 500 yards. And I'm like, yo, there are children walking under this line.
Right.
And, that is a concern. Things like that are a concern. I think a lot of people have that NIMBY. You know what that is, right? Not in my backyard.
Sure.
I get it.
Yeah.
I totally get it. If they want to put data centers, find some place. But a lot of it is real estate, man. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of it's like, I want to sell my land, make a nut. And
you can't
whether there's a data center, there's a data center.
Yeah, you can't necessarily tell a private landowner, hey, don't do this. But at the same time, like, listen, I understand totally all of the repercussions and the issues. If I do agree that they need to be in certain areas, and in Luzerne County, we have a lot of those mine-scarred tracts of land, and that's what they're designated as. That's not Luzerne County that designates them as mine-scarred tracts of land. That's the state that says it. And it's based on, they were strip mining here in this area in 1954. There was, a coal mine. There's all this acid drainage and stuff like that. One of the places that's really well known for that and has been completely transformed is in Wilkes-Barre Township around the arena. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that. Yeah. That was all mine-scarred land, and there was nothing there. There was like a road going through, and it was like, you'd see like tumbleweeds going through, whatever. But now the arena gets put in, and that's an example of like a project where people kind of took a chance on it, because there were people that didn't support it. Some people did, whatever. And they took a chance on it. The arena gets built, and then Wilkes-Barre Township is now like a flourishing area economically. There's all stores, department stores, strip malls, things like that. And they're all, they're not like shitholes. They're like really good places.
Yeah, it's not
and it's a lot of I shopped there once or twice
when I was a kid. I was there. Well, they had the best posters.
Twice, yeah, and then you go to the back of the store and you laugh about all the things back there.
You
never went to the back of Spencer's?
No, I didn't need to.
You weren't living.
No, I went to the front of Hot Topic.
Okay.
I think the data centers is like, there needs to be like a talk. And there needs to be a way to get them away from residential. Don't agree. Have the power lines go through people's, farmland or property or houses or any of that shit. Mm-hmm. And then there's a way for look, sometimes you have to do the lesser of two evils. And if I could see the argument for if it can help a county, mm-hmm. Get out of a financial crisis or reduce human suffering by spending it smartly on other shit. It's tough. It's a tough thing because it's like there's an eventuality to it that it doesn't matter where they go.
Right.
And they're going to be there. And, you know, you could do it right where it doesn't harm anybody, it doesn't harm the environment, and it doesn't make people's electricity bills go up or any of that shit.
Yeah.
And the counties or the municipalities can benefit from it.
Yeah. And, you know, back to something that was said earlier in reference to data centers, you know, the power thing, like I said, that's an issue that I think is more self-inflicted, especially in Pennsylvania. And then, you know, I mean, I agree that they have to be in certain areas. But, you know, the other thing, like in regards to the power lines, so we had an issue with a power line very recently on county council that we've kind of tried to work through as much as we can. But again, not something that we necessarily control.
Right.
But, you know, I think that, like, I tried to read through a lot of the documentation, like what was provided for us. I know people say, oh, PPL, they're not being forthcoming about a lot of this stuff. And maybe that's true. I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't work for PPL. I also don't.
Well, they have no incentive to be forthcoming.
Mm-hmm. But they, you know, they also have said, okay, well, here's, you know, what we are saying we're going to do. If the power line is coming through your farmland, they have this thing they call like the reasonable curtilage. It can't go within a certain amount of feet of your house, whatever. I don't know what it is, 200 feet, 500 feet, something like that. So if the line is, you know, going to go straight through your farmland or your land, it has to take a detour around your house or around your barn or around your whatever piece of, you know, like permanent structure is there. So, you know, I try to look at all the information, and again, like I'm, you know, weighing the options between the citizens, you know, the taxpayers and everything that's going on. So it's really not, it's multifaceted. So it's not easy to make any of these decisions, because I know all the time that when I make that decision, I'm going to have to stare at these people in the face, because they will be there.
Well, one of the things that surprised me about like listening to the testimonies of people who speak at these meetings was that none of them were against. There were some that were against it. Most of them were begging for a compromise that was not coming.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
So it's like, as humans, like people try to be good people. They don't want to be pains in the asses. They don't want to be, you know, rock the apple cart. You know,
yeah.
And when I saw most of them talking, I remember I was talking to Jamie, and I'm like, or no, it was the one lady from the documentary said that. She goes, there is no compromise. You say no.
Mm-hmm.
They're all just saying like, well, can maybe it go this way, or maybe can the line go that way, or maybe you can move it over there 400 yards or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, why are we compromising with people who we never asked for any of this and we didn't want it in our neighborhoods?
Right.
So I think like I said, we could talk about this for 8 hours. I just think it's incumbent upon the elected officials to maybe find a way to be like, all right, let's take all the bullshit out of everything that just happened. Look at a map. It could go here. It could go here. It could go here. It could go here. I don't care who owns the land. These are the places where we can do it, and we can all benefit from it. And then everybody's happy. And then nobody's worried about like their kids getting a new wrist growing on their head or whatever they think is going to happen.
Sure. No, I agree with that 100%.
But that's all about like talking.
Yeah.
Just talk.
Having a conversation.
I'm happy I sat and talked with you today.
Absolutely.
Did you have fun?
Glad I was here. Absolutely.
Who's better, me or Corcoran?
Well, I think we talked for about an hour and a half longer than I did with
really?
with Bill. Yeah.
Are you exhausted or?
No, listen, this is all I do all day is talk to somebody. I'm be on the phone. My phone rang like 50 times since I've been here. So hopefully there hasn't been a disaster somewhere.
I hope there's not either.
It's okay if there was.
Are you on socials and stuff?
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you want to give people your handles if they want to follow you?
Well, it's just on Facebook. It's just John Lombardo. You can always just add me on Facebook as a friend. Because I'll be honest, I try not to post too much political stuff on Facebook. Every once in a while I do. No more videos. Unfortunately, occasionally on my political page I will, but I don't really use that too much when I'm not like running for office.
Yeah,
I'm trying to do that a little bit more lately, just to keep people informed about stuff going on in the county. I think it's just John Lombardo for County Council is my other Facebook page.
I think one of the things that Jamie Walsh did that I thought was very valuable was he would go live and he would have conversations for like an hour and a half.
Yeah.
And I always thought that was because a lot of politicians are afraid to do, as we started with the conversation where nobody wants to, Kamala didn't want to have long form conversations.
Mm-hmm.
I saw Jamie doing that and I'm like, that's really smart.
Yeah.
That's really smart because people can pick apart your bullshit or tell if you're genuine.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't, that's not something I necessarily want to run away from. I've done it in the past, But this year I didn't really have an opportunity. Like I kept saying, I got to sit down. I want to do a Facebook Live and have people ask me questions. Okay, this one asshole is going to ask this question. I know he's going to be on the Facebook Live.
But you're
and whatever.
prepared
But
for
like
that.
I know, like it's fine. It's not a problem. But I never ended up having time to actually sit down and do it. But I would love to be able to. And the thing is, like you can call me, you can Facebook message me, you can email me, and I answer just about everything that I get, regardless of where or when or how. And even if you approach me somewhere, like I'm happy to sit and talk. Again, just respectful. That's all I ask for.
You're a good guy, man. Don't let anybody give you shit, I'm happy we had a chance to chat.
Absolutely.
I hope we do it again.
Thank you.
Especially when the new council comes in and you're like, I can't get anything done. They're spending hundreds of millions of dollars.
They're gonna hear this and they're gonna be like, I thought he was done being upset about this $1 million.
It's a big deal.
Yeah.
It's abnormal.
Mm-hmm.
And we should all be really, if it came from within the county,
right.
I probably wouldn't have a problem with it.
Exactly.
John Lombardo, Luzerne County Council, firefighter, EMT, first responder, good guy. I'm happy that we did this, and I think you're a good dude. And I hope you had a good time.
I did. It was great. Thank you very much.
All right.